Good morning. Good morning again to all. We are going to do a joint committee hearing today. I'm State Senator James Sanders Jr., and I'm the chair of the Banking Committee. And I am glad that and honored that my co-chair, Anna Kaplan, the chair of the Commerce and Small Business Committees, is kind enough to join us in doing a joint hearing. My friends, the earth has been jolted by twin pandemics, and we are dealing with them. Of course, I'm speaking about COVID-19, which has changed everything. And of course, the continued pandemic of racism and economic inequality, which is ongoing. But we are here because we, the Banking and the Commerce Committee, have a responsibility to the people of New York State. And that responsibility, simply put, is to keep functioning, is to get us back to business. Since the business of New York is business, we need to get back to business. But in order to do that, we need to find out where are we, how deep is the hole, so that, and what does the hole look like, so that we can climb out of the hole. So we're going to really delve into these things today. If ever there was a time for leadership, that time is now. This is a time that we really are going to have to get ourselves together and really work on a solution to these problems. Now, we have rankers amongst us, and we will introduce them also, and I'll do all of that right after Senator Kaplan gives her opening remarks, and then we can go to our rankers and see if they have a statement that they want to make, of course, and then we can begin.
Chairman?
Yes, sir. Sir, yes,
Senator Tedisco here.
A pleasure, sir.
My video is disabled. Is it supposed to be disabled?
Yes.
I'm on the Banks Committee.
Then you should certainly be able to see, although you are probably blessed not to see me, but you certainly should be able to see. And I ask that the Senate staff start working with Senator Tedisco to see what they can do. Is there any advisement that we can give to the senator before we begin?
Yes, Senator. Right at this time, only chairs and rankers will have their
I see.
And upon recognition, members' cameras will be turned on.
I see. Oh, very interesting. So they can't even see us, but they can hear us.
They can see you, Senator, but we can't see them until they're recognized by you.
I see. Okay. I got you. Are you clear on that, Jim? Are you clear on that, Senator Tedisco?
I got it. I'm not that pretty, so you don't want to see me.
Well, as compared to me, sir, you're a walk in the park.
Okay. Go ahead.
Senator Kaplan, without further ado.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Senator Anna Kaplan. I am the chair of the Committee on Commerce, Economic Development, and Small Businesses. I would like to thank Senator Sanders for his partnership on today's event. As we discuss the important topic of the impact of coronavirus on the ability of our state's small businesses to access capital, whether that be the federal PPP program or New York's Forward Loan Fund or other means of capital. We all know that the pandemic has been extremely hard on our small business community. We have all heard about the struggles of small businesses in accessing the federal PPP program. We also have heard and seen the chilling impact of COVID-19 that has had on our small businesses' ability to remain open. Today, it's our hope to have a robust discussion with stakeholders so we can learn more about these challenges and work together to address them so that our small businesses have the best shot at recovering from this difficult time. With that, it is my pleasure to recognize members of the Commerce Committee who are joining us here today. Senator Gorin has already joined us, and we will recognize the other senators as they join. Oh, I believe Senator George Borrello has joined us also. And with that, I would like to pass it to Senator Sanders to go ahead and recognize the members of the Senate Bank Committee who are joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have been joined on the Banking Committee. We have been joined by the ranker, Thomas O'Mara. We have been joined by Senator Thomas, Senator Sepulveda, Senator Borrello, and Senator Tedesco. Our ranker, Senator O'Mara, is there any comments or statements that you would like to make, sir, before we begin?
Well, just simply, good morning to all. Thank you, Senator Sanders and Kaplan, for hosting the hearing on this very important topic. You know, many of us firmly believe that small business is the backbone of our economy. It is something that is very much struggling through the COVID crisis that we have right now. While the PPP loans, the emergency disaster loans, you know, have been some support for these businesses, the problems continue. And until the economy gets humming again, and hopefully stronger and better, at least upstate than we were, we're going to need to be looking at innovative ways to provide for the needs of small business, whether it be capital loan programs, grant programs, because many small businesses are already overloaded with debt, even from prior to COVID, but certainly COVID has piled that on to many of them. Many of them are hanging by a thread to continue, particularly our restaurant industry and those type of entertainment venues that have really been hit hard by this. So I look forward to the testimony today and the input from those testifying and asking some questions along the way. So thank you.
Well put, Senator O'Mara. Well put, Senator Kaplan. We've also been joined by Senator Shelley Mayer and Senator Jordan. I'm not sure if I recognized her before, but let me make sure that I also have been joined by Senator Harckham and more coming. Obviously, this is a major thing that would get everyone together. The well-being of our businesses, small businesses especially, which, as the senator said, are hanging by a thread, and we need to do what we can. Here are the ground rules for today's hearing. Each witness will have 5 minutes to testify. The clock will be viewable in the Zoom gallery, and the chair and the ranker will have 5 minutes for questionings, and other members will have 3 minutes. We'll try to be as liberal as we can, my friends. And we'll use the raised hand function to be recognized. All members and witnesses are reminded not to participate while operating a vehicle. My friends, this is going to be quite the hearing, and if I don't encourage you to drive anything except this conversation. And with that, I want to bring, I'm going to ask Khadija to introduce our first panel. Would you be kind enough? Quickly.
Our first panel will be Pravina Raghavan, Executive Vice President, Small Business and Technology Development of the Empire State Development.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you again as well, Senator. Good morning, Chair Kaplan, Chair Sanders, and other distinguished senators here today. My name is Pravina Raghavan. I'm the Executive Vice President of Small Business and Technology Development here at Empire State Development, ESD. Thank you for inviting me to participate at this important hearing. As a former small business owner and in my role at ESD, I know from experience that the well-being of our state businesses is of paramount importance to the overall economic vitality of New York State. As you know, New York was one of the earliest and the hardest hit states by the coronavirus pandemic. At one time, we faced the highest rates in infection in the nation, and now we have some of the lowest rates. This is due to Governor Cuomo's science-based, data-driven approach to fighting COVID-19 and guided the state's responsible, regionally based, phased-in opening strategy. This road is long and hard, and unfortunately, it's not over yet. Throughout it all, ESD has been on the forefront, providing essential guidance, services, counsels to businesses across the state. It's not easy for most small businesses to simply walk into their bank and fill out a loan application. In fact, according to 2020 estimates, roughly 80% of small business owners are denied financing for a multitude of reasons. The COVID-19 crisis has made this even harder. Small businesses' ability to access affordable capital is essential to our state's economic recovery. ESD's programs and products ensure that these businesses, especially micro businesses and minority and women-owned enterprises, get the help that they need. Under Governor Cuomo's leadership, ESD has developed and coordinated to help small businesses in their survival and growth during this pandemic. Access to capital is a critical part of a business's foundation. However, small businesses also need dedicated counseling and support networks, especially during this pandemic. Since March, we have launched the following initiatives. We started the $100 million New York Forward Loan Fund, provided financial support to 70 entrepreneurship assistance centers, small business development centers, and community development financial institutions to increase the number of counselors and offer remote sessions that have assisted over 68,600 small business owners to receive funding of over $390 million. Provided $21 million of loan capital to CDFIs to provide Paycheck Protection Program loans. Provided $400,000 in R&D grant funding to small businesses to increase manufacturing of ventilators, PPE, and new technologies in areas of diagnostics and vaccines, and awarded $10 million to 20 New York-based small businesses to retool production lines in order to manufacture approved COVID-19 critical supplies. Created the New York Manufacturing Extension Partnership, which provided $2.3 million in grants to support New York manufacturers to manage the challenges created by COVID-19. And most recently, launched Empire State Digital, which provides quick solutions to address the urgent needs of small businesses that are looking to survive by partnering with leading global e-commerce companies. This is a first-in-the-nation program that offers education, training, marketing support, and discounted pricing. This crisis has affected all businesses, but the smallest of the small, those who employ less than 20 employees, were the hardest hit. Historically, these businesses have difficult time accessing capital because they have been locked out of traditional banking relationships. This made it difficult to access PPP loans, as such funding went through very large lenders. As publicized, many small minority and women-owned businesses were unable to access or receive PPP. Most of the loans went to big banks' own top customers. We work with our federal delegation to have CDFIs supported in round 2 to ensure truly small businesses received help. ESD provided $21 million of loan capital so CDFIs can make PPP loans to microenterprises. Governor Cuomo recognized that small businesses needed access to working capital to weather this crisis and launched the $100 million New York Forward Loan Fund. This public-private partnership allows CDFIs to scale and support businesses to reopen. This program was based on the concerns that we heard from small businesses to access affordable working capital loans, which was an unmet need from PPP and other relief programs. One example is Gigi Bakes in Rochester, which is owned by Denise Gaines and her family. Business was booming prior to COVID-19, but in March, she had to shut down. They felt the blow significantly. To shift their business model, Denise needed access to credit. In her own words, we need to change the business model and do more farmers markets. So we wanted to ramp up our presence there, but I knew we needed capital to do that properly. That's why I applied for loans. Small businesses like Gigi Banks are the lifeblood of our economy, and losing businesses like this will be a blow to our vitality of Main Streets, entrepreneurial talent, and critical job opportunities and livelihoods of thousands of New Yorkers. That is why we are working hard at ESD to support the over 527,000 small businesses, and we'll continue to work with our community and private sector partners to give our small minority-owned women businesses more paths to recovery. Thank you again for inviting me, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I have just a couple. And how's that for your timing? My God, you're getting good at this. I have just a couple of questions. Are you familiar with the CARES Act, the federal legislation?
I am, yes.
Okay. The CARES Act allowed grants for small businesses. How much of this did we do in New York State?
I actually wasn't, I don't know that answer to the question, Senator. I do know the CARES Act, but I'm not sure how much we applied for. That was done through a different agency, but I'm happy to go back and get you an answer to that question.
I would like an answer, especially that more loans are not what these businesses are really asking for at this time. Well, tell me more about the ESDC and what did we do with the banks to help with this PPP problem for small businesses?
Thank you. So we actually work with the community development financial institutions. We did work with our sister agency, DFS, to encourage all the banks that, especially those chartered in New York State, were doing PPP loans and made sure that they tried to get everyone from one person businesses all the way up to 500, which is what's the definition of small business by the SBA. And then we separately work with CDFIs because we knew that the small businesses that we work with, which are minority and women-owned and micro enterprises, don't usually have big banking relationships. So we provided $21 million to CDFIs to do those PPP loans. And then we also provided all our small business development centers and EACs, entrepreneurship assistance centers, counseling for everyone who wanted to apply so that we can get as many applications in quickly and easily. And as I said, they were able to help 68,600 small businesses get $390 million of funding through our help.
I wear many hats, as you probably know. And among my hats are the chair of the MWBE task force. I've been hearing a lot of complaints and problems, and I would like you to provide in writing to me the percentage of the loans, grants, and contracts, especially the contracts that they have received, the MWBE community has received from the beginning of the pandemic until this day. If you would do that in writing to me, I would appreciate it.
Yes, Senator, we will definitely do that.
I now recognize Senator Kaplan, of course, for her questions and comments.
Thank you, Ms. Raghavan. That was really a great testimony. I have heard from numerous small commercial landlords about their financial needs. And I'm aware that New York Forward Loan Fund is something they can access. Has there been an outreach to this particular group that they may be eligible for this program?
So we have done outreach across the state. We work with our community partners. We're also happy to be at any webinars or any town halls that any of you may have to get the word out. Part of it is people hear about it, and as you both know, doing more loans, it kind of makes people a little skeptical, also raises up their tension level. So which is why we're also providing these small business development centers and entrepreneurship assistance centers to help to actually take these landlords as well as any small business through what it is to get this loan and how it can help them. But we also need to get the word out more. We have a lot of work to do with that. So we are always looking for opportunities to share the knowledge and also get the word out about the program.
I thank you very much. I agree. I think we need to make sure that more people are aware of this and the opportunity for them to be able to tap into this. And can you talk a little bit about how did you decide upon the financial institutions that are taking part in this program? And is there any opportunity to grow this group larger?
Yeah. So we worked with CDFIs that we know have state coverage and also a very good track record to be able to do loans processed quickly and have what I'd call the facility to do that. We got over 10,000 applications. All 10,000 applications have been reviewed. So you had to have people who had the technical capacity to be able to handle that type of load. And these 4 are known quantities in the state. They have been great partners from us. So we worked with them to develop the program. I know you have a couple of them coming to testify later, but they were really a big help. And as for expanding, we are continually looking at ways to get more bank capital. The way it works is actually the state put up loan loss reserve, and then we raised $100 million of bank and philanthropic to be able to purchase loans from the CDFI so that they don't feel the hit from a financial impact. So what we're trying to do is raise more money. And if we raise more money, then we can involve more CDFIs to come into the program.
Thank you. Which brings me to my next question. Obviously, New York Forward Loan Fund was created to help address the unmet help that small businesses needed during the COVID-19 pandemic. Has there been any thought given to expanding the program and making it permanent?
That's a great question. I think we'd have to talk to this is a public-private partnership. I think on behalf of the state, we would really welcome those talks with the banks to see if they would be willing to do this past the pandemic. It is a recovery product. So it's the reason it's different from PPP is that we really are looking for a long-term relationship with these customers. And so the banks have been very good to work with. And I would definitely bring that back to them to see if they would look to do it past this as well.
It would be really a great thing for our small businesses throughout the state. And to this date, what would you say the loans are most commonly being used for?
Definitely working capital, doing social distancing protocol, even buying PPE equipment. Some like Gigi Bakes that I said, getting to be able to go to different venues and markets. So really just making sure they can turn on the lights and start. And then we're coupling that with Empire State Digital to give them the access to get to new markets as well, so that they can do both at the same time.
Thank you. One last question. Have any regions been particularly engaged in tapping into the New York Forward Loan Fund?
So I will say that we have loans across all the regions in every county in the state, which is fantastic. We will definitely could use some help getting more people aware of it. That's one of the things we're showing is the downstate counties are very good about getting the word out. Long Island, Queens, Brooklyn, they're all fantastic. We're really trying to work with our western counties and southern tier and central New York because we would expect the pace to be higher there than it is currently.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your testimony. I pass it back to you, Senator Sanders. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I now recognize Senator O'Mara if he cares to ask some questions. Still muted.
Yeah, still muted.
Now you're here.
Yes, thank you, Senator. Thank you for testifying with us today. I know with the PPP loans that were out there for small businesses, there was great utilization of that through our local and regional banks participating with the SBA on that. I've seen in my experience prior to this, and I think the PPP has been a very successful program, I've seen some hesitation on behalf of the local lenders, banks, what have you, from participating in the small business program because of all the paperwork and other technicalities involved in that. But I think the PPP was so successful because it was streamlined and it cut away with all that excess paperwork that added fees and costs to the system. What are your thoughts on how we can improve the participation of local banks with the Small Business Administration in getting these guaranteed loans so that frees up even more capital from our local banks?
Thank you, Senator O'Mara. You may not realize this, but I used to work for the Small Business Administration before I came to the state. So I spent a lot of time in this working with my former colleagues. I want to say they did a yeoman's job. Getting these programs out to get billions of dollars is fantastic. I do think we should all be looking at new technology. I think that's what you're finding from a lot of these fintech companies that have come out is showing that streamlined process. The beauty of New York Forward Loan Fund is it's a 16 questions application, which are easy to identify. And then they work hand in hand with the counselor to be able to go through the paperwork. We do need to see tax returns and bank statements, but I think it's less daunting when you have someone guiding you through the process. I think the SBA, I would love to work with the SBA to see how we could bring new financial fintech companies into this discussion to figure out how to streamline that so that we can do things both for those to understand the process, to make it easier and look at behavior. And I realize a lot of people aren't connected by technology, which is why we still need those centers. The small business development centers and the entrepreneurship assistance centers are key for us to get to many people, especially when we have limited internet service across the state.
Thank you for that. And with the New York Forward program, can you discuss the applicability of that to startup businesses as opposed to existing small businesses?
Yeah, this is more geared towards existing small businesses. As I said, it was a recovery product for those who really needed to restart their businesses quickly. You can apply as a startup. The caveat would be that you would have had to have been in business prior to COVID-19. So even if you started February 2019, you are eligible, but it is really towards that. We are looking to see what we can do for startups because we know entrepreneurship is on the rise through our centers, especially the entrepreneurship assistance centers. We've seen such a big uptake as people have been let go of their jobs. And so now they're taking their hobby or their side gig hustle and making it a real job, real company. And so we are looking at products that we can do just to serve that market because it's different from an existing business.
Yes, it is. And I think it's one that needs to be fostered, certainly around our universities, such as Cornell, within the district that do a lot of entrepreneurship assistance, getting the new technologies or what have you from the classroom to the actual business arena. And I think that's an area where we have struggled in New York on access to funding for those types of things. So I think looking at that going forward will be a very positive thing to help spur new innovation, which will lead to a variety of new businesses, both in manufacturing and otherwise, to help bolster our economy. And certainly, I thank you for the work that you do.
Well, thank you. And just so you know, Senator, we do work with Cornell quite. My job is actually from what I say, a person in a cart who wants to start a business all the way to high-tech innovation. So we have New York Ventures, but also our NYSTART programs, and we work really close with Cornell, and we have the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, which was able to give $2.3 million of grants during this COVID crisis. So I definitely agree with you. Technology and the innovation companies are a sector that we really want to focus in for our growth and recovery.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, sir. We now recognize Senator Borrello for questions or comments.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Sanders. How are you, sir?
I feel good. How about yourself, sir?
Well, thank you. Good to see you. And I'm blessed to be on both of these committees. So, Chairman Kaplan, good to see you as well this morning. So, thank you so much for being on here with us. Also, Ms. Ragavan, I appreciate it very much. I spent time as county executive working with ESD and serving on the Western New York REDC board. So, I appreciate the work that you do. I have a couple of questions. I'm a small business owner myself. My wife and I, and it is certainly, we've watched the people in the hospitality business and restaurant business have truly suffered, probably the industry most impacted. And many small businesses, across the state have closed as a result. My first question is on the New York Forward Loan Fund. $100 million is certainly significant. I think the PPP, the EIDL loans at the federal level have helped a great deal. But the New York Forward Fund, to be quite honest with you, hasn't got a lot of attention here in Western New York. And I'm curious, of that $100 million, as they say, how much is on the street? How much is out there right now?
Sure. So right now we have 261 loans for $11.5 million. 71% of that went to MWBE firms, so 186 loans for 7.7. We are continually lurking with small businesses, and I agree with you. We have done quite a few webinars and work with the Chamber of Commerce. And if there's any other ideas that you have or any of your colleagues have on how we can get the word out in certain territories across the state, we're more than willing. In fact, you will be talking to Pursuit later. They're actually holding webinars directly so that the small businesses in conjunction with us can actually talk to the banker themselves to help them. And one of the things is we're really relying on our resource partners, the entrepreneurship assistance centers, to get those businesses that need help straight through the queue quickly.
So we're, right now we're looking at, roughly 11-12% of that 100 million that's actually on the street helping people. And that's, we've got to improve that. Obviously that's an important, that's a kind of a low number. So how can we help is my question, as legislators. And it's easy to say, hey, I'm happy to help, and I am happy to help. But if there's something specific that we can do, because I'm assuming of that 12% that's out in the street, most of it's in the New York City area. And
no.
No. Job of getting the word out there. That's why I assumed that. But how do we get the rest of that money out there, and how can we assist? My wife has been diligent in our businesses, learning about the PPP and EIDL, the Main Street Loan Program. And I asked her a little while ago if she was familiar with the New York Forward program, and she said no. And she's been actually helping other small businesses in our area to navigate some of this stuff. So how do we get the word out to, chambers of commerce, all these other folks that are, a network of businesses, the many small business associations, NFIB, and so forth. How do we get the word out and do a better job of networking that?
We're continually working with them. We have reached out to a lot of chambers of commerce and worked with them. I think the problem is a person hears it once and they kind of forget about it. I applaud your wife helping small businesses, because that's what we need, more advocates about this. One of the things we did in the beginning when we launched the program, PPP was so big. I mean, it's hard to compete with $100 million versus almost $680 billion. So we had said no PPP loans, but we changed that in the few weeks ago, because we realized what happened was people were getting PPP loans. They only lasted them for 8 weeks for payroll. This pandemic has gone way past 8 weeks. And so we've made that change. We're going out again with another campaign to get to that. But if there are people we haven't reached, we are very open to having those introductions and following up to make sure, because to be honest, this program will only work if the word is out. And so, we have gone through all of we know all the chambers, we know the IDAs, they know about it, but it's also making sure that that person feels comfortable taking on the debt, which is why we offer those services, the counseling services, such as what your wife is doing, is because it's actually taking you through and going, can you afford this? And I know that's a problem. So anything, what you guys can help, let us know who to contact. If you have people that you say, hey, I want to make that direct contact, we will do that. I have a team of 15 people working on this just to do webinars, seminars, walk with small businesses. It's one of our most important.
Well, thank you, and we'll certainly take you up on that. Just one last question on the loan: is it, like with the PPP and others, there's a portion that's forgivable depending on how it's being utilized. Is any of that with the New York Forward Loan Fund? Is any of it forgivable, or is it all just a debt?
Unfortunately, it is a repayable. As I said, we have banks as partners, so they were not going to allow us to forgive any of the loan. So the way it works is the first year is interest only, though. There's no principal payment, and then years 2 to 5, there would be interest and principal back, recognizing that small businesses would be under a financial crunch.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Executive Vice President. We will now hear from Senator Tedesco. I recognize Senator Tedesco.
Okay. Can you see me there? We're all set?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
thank you so much. I can't see the one who is giving testimony.
Restart his clock again and let's make sure he can see.
I'm looking at you, Chairman.
What a poor thing to do, sir.
I love that bow tie.
Senator, is it possible you can switch to a gallery view? Once Ms. Raghavan starts speaking, you'll be able to see her on your screen.
Gallery. Should I hit more for that?
Yeah, Senator, once Ms. Raghavan starts speaking, you'll be able to see her. She'll come up on your screen.
Oh, okay.
Yes, please proceed.
So thank you for being here. Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate you taking the time very much. My concern is, as all of my colleagues are, and I'm sure yours, is not only the impact of COVID-19 on our economy, on job creation, on our small businesses, and the profound effect it has had in terms of our deficits and our budget. But my major concern is not to go back to where we were as an economy, because before this epidemic, we had a $6.1 billion deficit in the state of New York. And we were hemorrhaging, I believe, jobs, and we were hemorrhaging population. We lost 180,000 individuals who walked out of the state of New York last year. Number one in out-migration of all 50 states. It's difficult to have a job creation, get small businesses or any businesses to come or expand in New York State when people are leaving and the potential for hiring and those who we need to have the skills aren't present in our state. And the concern I have is the agenda that may be partially missing for an environment to help economic expansion, to help job creation, to help small businesses or any businesses expand and provide those job opportunities in New York State. Now, I know my colleagues in the administration answer the question on why would 180,000 people, number one, in out migration, and by the way, 1.4 million over the last decade, walk out of the state of New York. And their answer to that, unfortunately, has been the weather. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, and I don't know if many of people know this, but 16% of those 180,000 people who walked out of the state last year went to New Jersey. And let me repeat that, 16% of those 180,000, number one in out migration from New York State, walked out to New Jersey. Now, New Jersey's not exactly the sunny, balmy place of the Northeast. They can be competitive, but I don't think they should be that competitive with New York State. And my real concern now is when enough people leave that can afford to leave the state of New York, we have this type of out migration. We have a $178 billion budget this year. Who's going to pay for the infrastructure? Who's going to pay for education? Who's going to pay for our most vulnerable population, our senior programs, our development programs? When we have only middle class or a large majority or lower income people left in New York State because of this large out migration, how are we going to balance that budget? And my real concern is we won't be the empire state anymore. We're fast becoming the empty state. And I guess my question to you is, what is the one thing that you can recommend for us, the one most important thing to incentivize people to come to New York, to expand their business in New York, to look at new investments in services and products in New York State, to put people back to work in New York State, and to create a part of whatever the agenda has been over the last couple of years that has left, I think, a piece out for economic development and had 180,000 people walk out of the state of New York. And I think that's partially an indictment of the fact that opportunities were not here for them. What is the one thing we can add to what should be an incentivization by an economic development program from those of us who are legislators in the administration? The one thing that is most important for us to keep people in New York State, incentivize them to expand business, incentivize them to grow a family here, to be able to pay their mortgages, feed their family, pay their kids' tuition, and make this a state that attracts business and industry and economic expansion. The one most important thing.
Yep. Thank you for that. Actually, I think I had mentioned it and touched it on before when I was talking to Senator O'Mara. It's actually supporting our innovation in tech companies. I think, people don't realize that the net new job growth for the last 40 years has been supporting those kind of companies, which is the innovation. And we do that through our NYSTAR network, but I think there's more we could do. We obviously have a $100 million venture capital fund on top of that, but how we support them is to be able to help those companies commercialize quickly because their jobs will be here. Their technology will be here and we will be the partner. And that's why we spend a lot of time looking at those industries and such as cybersecurity, unmanned aerial systems, ag tech, because we actually have some of the top, we have 10 R1 Research One universities in this country. We're second to California, and capitalizing on that talent and commercialization will help us create more jobs and actually affordable jobs so that people can stay, send their kids to school and pay their mortgage. So I would welcome working with this committee to be able to figure out how we do that better.
My second question then relates to that tech.
If it's fast, Jim, if it's fast.
Okay, I agree with you. I represent the 49th senatorial district. It goes up into the Adirondacks. I've said this on before. Probably Senator Sanders is sick of hearing this, but in many instances, to get any messages out on broadband or to get any messages through cell phone in an emergency, my constituents on some occasions, and I say this tongue in cheek, have to use smoke signals or homing pigeons. We don't have broadband throughout the entire state of New York, although we were promised it. We don't have cell phone usage. And that promise has to be fulfilled. In the 49th senatorial district, we couldn't have got those 25,000 jobs from Amazon that were thrown away from New York City because we have no web infrastructure in a large portion of the upstate area or broadband. or cell phone usage, believe it or not. You can't develop economic development.
Your question,
Do you
Jim.
think we need, are you advocating for broadband and expansion of web infrastructure across the entire state? Can you help us with that?
So, Senator, that is definitely ESD has been looking at that. It's one of our things. We obviously have a wireless task force as well as a broadband task force, and I'm happy to refer my colleague to get answers to you for this. I personally don't know the infrastructure myself, but I'm happy to go and follow up for that. Definitely, I do think it's important. Everyone should have access to technology.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your service. Appreciate answering the questions.
Thank you, Senator Tedesco. I must admit, when you were speaking of the weather and the climate, Senator Tedesco, I thought you were about to join AOC in calling for a Green New Deal. You had me worried, sir, but I'm sure that that's not even a consideration. Senator Kaplan, I recognize Senator Kaplan, who wanted to have a second round.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. It's not actually a question that I have. One of my colleagues, Senator Shelley Mayer, asked, she wants to know how small businesses that are not part of the chamber, and i.e. the vast majority of especially small businesses that are Hispanic-owned businesses, how can they find out about these loan programs? Chambers are a limited way of communicating. And I appreciate, Ms. Raghavan, we've done together webinars. So I've tried to advocate and make sure we put the information out. And I encourage all of my colleagues to do the same thing and engage you to do these webinars. But is there anything else that you can suggest for us to do as the representatives of these different districts to reach out to our small businesses and give them the information?
Sure. Thank you for that, especially for the Hispanic population. We have quite a few tools. We have both the application in Spanish as well as the marketing material. And if you have lists that you would like us to send it, we actually have the material translated in several languages, the top 8 languages in the state, for that reason alone, because language is a barrier to access to capital. Language is a barrier to a lot. We also have counselors that are native speakers of these languages as well, especially Spanish, but also Mandarin. We have, it's funny, Haitian Creole, Russian, because those are some of the biggest populations we have here in the state, and to make sure that they were able to get it. So if we can work with you to get the material out to any list or any chambers that you need, that you think we should be looking at, if there's a different, we're happy to do that. And I will say we were covered by Telemundo on purpose. We actually went to talk to the Hispanic press to be able to get coverage so that people knew about New York Forward Loan Fund across the state as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Can I encourage you, Executive Vice President Raghavan, to look at the CARES Act to see if there's any money left in the CARES Act that could do grants to small business. Grants are going to be incredibly important. They had a pool in the CARES Act. There may be some money left in that, especially to do grants. Is there any closing statements you want to make, Executive Vice President?
Well, I want to thank you for having this hearing. I think it's very, very timely, and also one of the most important things we can be doing. And I think here at ESD, if there's ways that we can help you, I think the state plays a very powerful partner. But I think what we've learned, especially during this crisis, and as Senator Tedesco said, we're in a budgetary crisis at the moment, is working with the private sector and bringing them to bear. I would say Empire State Digital is the first step in that, where we have actually global e-commerce providers providing stuff for us for free, but also discounted prices for our small businesses, which is needed now. And so I would encourage you, if you have other partnerships we should be thinking about, and we're using the power of your office as well as the states to be able to do that, we'd be more than happy to work on that, because I think small businesses are just going to need more and more tools in their toolkit, and we're also going to have to change them for the future. I do agree. We're not going back to the same normal we were used to. So if we can educate them, get them up to speed with different digital players, it could actually increase the survival, but also increase the rapidness that we can recover. So thank you again for the time, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, my Executive Vice President. Thank you. Right before Khadija reads the next panel, I want to remind us that this joint committee has been called not simply by the chairs, but by the under the leadership of Majority Leader Andres Stewart-Cousins, who also recognizes the need for New York to remain New York, go back to New York, and go ahead and become the greater New York, the greater, I almost said make New York, oh my, the greater state that we need to be. Would you be kind enough to read the next panel, call the next panel?
For our second panel, we have Erica Chase Gregory, Director of the Small Business Development Center at SUNY Farmingdale.
Good morning, Ms. Chase Gregory. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And thank you for having me this morning.
A pleasure. I believe that I'll let you have the floor, and then we'll have some questions for you.
Okay, thank you very much. So good morning. My name is Erica Chase Gregory. I want to first thank Senator Kaplan for inviting me to make a public statement today on accessing capital for small businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic. I am the Regional Director of the Small Business Development Center, better known as the SBDC, at Farmingdale State College. My center is part of the New York SBDC network that is made up of 22 centers covering each county in New York State. The network has been assisting entrepreneurs and small business owners to either start or to expand their businesses since 1984. Our free services cover assistance with regulatory and licensing questions, business plans, government procurement, MWBE certification, new product development, financial plans, loan information, disaster assistance, and other related business topics. Since inception, the SBDC network has assisted over 505,000 businesses, helping them to invest $7.3 billion into the state's economy. They in turn have created or saved over 231,000 jobs. Since this past March, each center has gone into full disaster assistance mode, helping more than 10,000 business owners navigate through the financial resources available to them through the EIDL program, PPP, New York Forward Loan Program, and other local programs that may exist. Our one-on-one assistance to these businesses has resulted in 2,001 approved EIDL loans and 1,699 approved PPP loans. We are also starting to see a positive result from the New York Forward Loan Program that has recently updated their eligibility guidelines. Since March, over $410 million in loans, either disaster loans or other financing, has been received by the small business community the network has assisted. Probably all of you have heard there were issues with the EIDL and the PPP loans, but we have managed to keep the business community updated with the changes and how to work through the application processes. Our local SBA offices have done a great job at getting us the answers to our clients' questions and moving applications to a status that is a positive one for small businesses. Many small businesses have been apprehensive to take on debt as they're concerned with the unknown. All of our business advisors across the state have heard this main concern and work closely with each business, developing financial plans and evaluating the best way to move through this pandemic. Although traditional bank loans are more difficult to access during this time, we have been successful working with our banking contacts to work with our business clients to access lines of credit, refinance current loans, and lend new capital to acquire needed equipment or for working capital to continue or to expand operations. As an example, we were just successful with one of our clients to close on a $350,000 loan to refinance his current debt. This client came to us in August, and we immediately assisted him with a loan application, which was approved in mid-September. This client was days away from being late on his current debt obligations that he could not afford to pay. This loan resulted in savings of 30% of his current liabilities. Another example was a business acquisition. The business advisor worked with this client on his business plan and financial projections needed for his SBA loan application. It was important to highlight this was an essential business, and although sales were decreasing during this current period, it is still a viable business to fund. The loan for $281,000 closed last month to finance the purchase of the business, equipment, and working capital. Another acquisition just closed in the amount of $277,000, and another business is closing next week for an equipment loan for $299,000. We have other examples of success stories across the state. Startup financing is more difficult, as is typical. These loans have more risk to the lender, but with the SBA guarantee, we are still seeing some new ventures being financed. It is important to note that while banks are very cautious and dealing with the fallout of COVID, as well as the uncertainty of the future, there are deals being financed. It is more critical now to understand which banks are proactive in funding projects, and the SBDC advisors can help connect business owners with these lenders. The SBDC business advisors have contacts with large financial institutions, smaller commercial and credit unions, CDFIs, which are really important in this space, and brokers who can find financing for the most difficult cases. We work with our clients to outline what options are available and then show them the impact of taking on that debt versus not, which was spoken about by Pravina. We anticipate more difficulty as the economy continues to take a downturn, but we will continue to work with our clients and find financial solutions. We will also continue to work with the small business owners to access capital through EIDL, New York Forward Loan Program, and assist with other programs that may become available. Thank you so much for your time and allowing me to address your committees.
Thank you. Madam, you said that traditional loans are more difficult in this period. Why is that?
Well, the banks have been so forward with getting the PPP process going for them. So they have more at stake in terms of what's on the street within their banking system through those PPP loans. Obviously, there's a lot of unknown as to the stability of the economy as these businesses open. Where are these customers for the clients? It's not a normal economic time for sure. So there are more risks involved with those banks just going out and saying, yes, we're going to take this risk. It's risky, but we like what it looks like. We can look at the forecast and we can get on board with that. So it is going to be a little bit more tricky to find that financing with straight bank loans. But in our experience, and I outlined some of them in the examples, the SBA guarantee is really what's making the difference for the banks to get that money out on the street. So we're really happy to see the SBA guarantee and the bank participating in that whole process to get money out on the street for banks, for businesses, sorry.
In your professional opinion, what percentage of these businesses that now exist are not coming back?
Pravina mentioned that the EACs are seeing a big uptick in new entrepreneurs coming into the field, as we are too. A lot of new clients coming with new ideas to get into the small business space. I'm going to make a guess at 30 to 40% of businesses will close. I'm starting to see it on Long Island. I'm sure Senator Kaplan sees it on Long Island in the strip malls. A lot of turnover, some new businesses coming in, which is a great sign, but some leaving the marketplace altogether. And I would say 30 to 40% won't come, back.
That is the figure that I'm hearing nationwide. With that in mind, what would be the most effective program or policy that New York State can do to give those 30 to 40% a fighting chance?
Well, I think some of it, and some of the exit out of this space are people making decisions for their families, and it's not just, we're bleeding here, but it's a conscious decision to leave this space. So some of that we're going to see. They may be 5 years out of retirement and they're making the decision to exit now. I think the the access to capital is really big. Access to refinance debt is really important. I mean, I highlighted one of the businesses. He has 3 beauty salons, one in Manhattan, 2 on Long Island, and he was able to save 30% of his debt obligation to refinancing that loan. So I think New York is very fortunate, or at least what I see on Long Island, we're very fortunate to have a lot of banks. Our CDFI, we work a lot with Pursuit. They have been really proactive and really aggressive at helping the small business community, and those things have to continue. The other thing I'm real concerned about are restaurants, the eateries, come this winter. The regulations are going to be real tight on them, which, I'm not saying that's right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm just saying that's going to be the fact. So I think restaurants are going to need a certain program, perhaps. And then the other industry I'm real concerned about is the childcare industry. So when things come back and people go back to work, we need to have a foundation for childcare businesses to be there. And they're really hurting right now as well.
Well thought out. I now recognize Senator Kaplan if she cares to raise some issues.
Thank you, Ms. Erica Chase Gregory, for your testimony. I think you really highlighted what's really important, and you answered some of my questions, but I have some other questions. Maybe you can help us. And again, thank you for joining with me and doing webinars so that we could put the information out and people could be guided to do what's best in their interest. And I think those webinars have been really, really useful for a lot of small businesses. I encourage every senator to do the same thing for their residents, constituents, and chambers that they're involved with. With that said, what were the most common questions small businesses had when filling out the PPP applications?
The application wasn't too terrible. It was, the first round was a debacle. We all know that. And that was very difficult. And then the second round, we saw a lot more small businesses who were kept out of the first round really being able to access that application process. So the application wasn't too difficult. Now there's a lot of question about forgiveness. We're just starting to get trained from the SBDC side, the resource partners of the SBA, really getting trained on the nuances of that forgiveness application. So we'll be able to help the small business owner go through that application. That's probably going to be more important than the application. They've gotten their money. Now they really need to be forgiven. And we're still waiting, to hear about the federal stimulus package that hopefully will come. I heard this morning or last night, they're really targeting small business. So I'm really hopeful for that, maybe to expand the PPP or other programs that we can help them with.
You and all of us really on this Zoom event. As you provided so much technical assistance with the PPP applications, what improvement would you recommend to be made to the application process, if any? Or the forgivable applications for people to request?
I think, I honestly don't have that many problems with the PPP application. The banks really did. The smaller banks got on board later. I think it was a real difficult lift from the banking side. And that's where you saw the slowdown from getting those banks on board to take the applications. The issue in the first round into the second round was that the individual bank business had to go to their individual bank at first. And that was really hard because there were smaller, great business bankers that just didn't have the capacity to handle the PPP loans. So that business was kind of shut out. So that that worked itself out when more CDFIs came on board to help the PPP, and that was really, really important. And again, I don't want to put too much out there negative against that PPP program, because they did what they could at the moment that they were trying, and it did help a lot of people. Unfortunately, I think, you know, the biggest issue I see is the small business doesn't want to take on that debt, no matter what. And they're waiting for grants, or they're waiting for something else.
Right. With that said, I'm a big proponent of our SBDCs. And can you just take a minute to talk about the great work that you do and how my fellow senators can actually learn more about it so that they can give that information to their residents, constituents, and chambers?
Yes, thank you so much for that. So like I said, there are 22 centers across New York State. And then there are many outreach centers that provide services for more rural areas of New York State. So no small business owner, individual out there in New York State is more than 30 minutes away from an SBDC center. Most of our centers right now are working remotely, but we are working full time. We have, at my center, we have 11 staff members. We have 200 plus employees through the network, really helping small businesses recover, go through the process of these loan applications that are available to them, really digging in with their financial planning right now. So that's really important. We do a lot with marketing. We're actually partnered with ESD. We're being trained by the digital partners that they have with them to then be able to help our clients get on the platforms like Shopify, to bring their marketing to that online platform so they can expand their reach into the market. So we're a partner of ESD, helping with them with that. One of the things that's
the digital, you're talking about the Empire Digital that just went into effect.
Yes, it's the Empire Digital Initiative. So the SBDC is a partner within that process. So we are being trained by the digital platform. So it would be Shopify, say Etsy. So if you want to put a marketing, a marketplace on Shopify, we will be able to help that small business do the technical side of that. So we'll be doing that. One of the great things about SBDC is that we are the go-to agency for small businesses. So we have the resources that come out before they even come out in, we know we're right there with them. So as soon as they get launched, we are able, and we can deploy our staff to help the small businesses in the community. So please.
I want to thank you very much. I think that was very good. And I really encourage my colleagues to reach out, look at the SBDC website to find out which ones are closest to them and really tap into the resources that are available to all of us. With that, my time is up. I'm going to pass it back to Senator Sanders. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kaplan, and insightful as usual. Senator O'Mara, you wanted to raise some points.
Yes, I did. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Erica, for your testimony and the great work that SBDC does. And I want to commend you for your comments on attention to childcare and those small businesses which are in great need across the state, both in rural, urban, and suburban areas. Childcare continues to be a major hurdle for a family to have both spouses working, or for a single parent. So I think we should be looking at fostering that as much as we can. I think you said that there's an DC center within 30 minutes of everybody, but I'm not sure that's the case. At least in my Senate district, the Corning office was closed a couple years ago. Now I believe, and we used to have great contact with the SBDC and the Corning office for my constituents to refer them there, and they were helpful. Now I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, please, that the closest center would be in Binghamton. Where?
So Binghamton is the lead center that oversees that outreach office, and it's Painted Post. Is that close to Corning?
Yeah, that's right next to Corning. But
So that's where the
full-time
outreach
staffed.
office.
That is not staffed full-time, correct?
It is, well, it's the area is serviced full-time, whether the advisors are working full-time in that office, but they would be serviced full-time, that area. And again, the Binghamton SBDC is overseeing that outreach office at Painted Post, and the staff that was at Corning mainly moved over to the Painted Post Outreach Center.
All right, well, thank you for that. That's news to me, and I know that we've had a lot less interaction with SBDC since that Corning office closed. So I would appreciate you, taking a look at that because it is important access for individuals looking for help, direction with their business or in the formation of their new businesses. And as you know, a lot of these small businesses are just 1, 2, and 3 person shops, particularly when it comes to childcare, and they don't have the time or the ability to travel too far to seek out that assistance. So I will certainly take a look at the Painted Post office and see what that's there. But that's something that I hope is being staffed full time. But the interaction with my office seems to have gone down since the Corning office closed.
I will pass that on to that office, but I also want to just point out that I was just asked last week by the advisor from Painted Post, Michelle. She had asked me, because I do a childcare program on Long Island for businesses. And so she had asked me, would I help their area out with the childcare industry, the childcare providers? And I guess it's she's working in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce over there with the childcare industry. And I'm going to be invited to speak about the childcare industry, the childcare businesses, how they can strengthen, how they can move through this, some of the resources that are available. So the SBDC network works as a true network. So when there's an expert in a certain area, we're called in. So I'm going to be really thrilled to work in your district for the childcare industry through Michelle, through the Painted Post office.
All right, well, great. That's very encouraging. I thank you for that. And please make sure my office gets word of that forum or seminar, whatever you're doing, and we'll certainly make every effort to participate because it always has been a good working relationship. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. In a moment, Khadija will read the next panel, but I do want to thank you for your services, especially in this time, great difficulty. And I'm sure that your working relationship with Senator Kaplan and others have been a benefit to the people of New York State. Thank you again. Senator Kaplan, if you'd like to say anything.
I just would encourage all of my colleagues to really reach out. These are resources that are available to all of us. My office and I have worked really hard during this pandemic to make sure that we bring these resources to our constituents, to our chambers, and have these webinars so that we can give them the information through the really experts like Erica and inform our constituents about what's available. I encourage all of my colleagues to reach out, and I'm sure Erica will be more than happy to fill them out about all the different resources that are available in all different parts of this great state. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica, again for your testimony and for your answers.
Thank you.
For our third panel, we have Margot Cargill of Titanium Links Consulting, Ah Young Kim of the Associate Director of Small Business Programs, Asian American Federation, Jamie Weisberg, Senior Campaign Analyst, Association for Neighborhood and Housing Development, and Nyan Parikh, President of Ashnu International, Inc.
It is good to see you all. Good to see you all. In the order that your name was read, that's the order that we will proceed. And I encourage us to use our words succinctly. Please begin, I believe it's Ms. Cargill.
Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate and fellow business colleagues. I really appreciate being here this morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Margot Cargill. I'm CEO of Titanium Links Consulting. I'm Vice President of NASA Council of Chambers of Commerce on Long Island, and I sit on the County Executive's NASA Hub Committee, Comptroller's MWBE Committee, and the District Attorney's Business Advisory Council. And I also periodically contribute to the Long Island Regional Economic Development Council's working groups in the areas including workforce development and small business. I have business partners in joint ventures upstate, downstate, sideways, but it's really not about the lists. It's to give an idea of the depth and breadth of my experience and interactions and interpretations of the New York State business landscape on multiple levels, from Main Street to Wall Street, business services to the trades. However, never have I seen such consistent messaging across all these groups or sectors in conversations. As a certified state, city, county, Nassau County, and Suffolk County, MWBE, federal DBE, WOSB, SBE, HAB, Section 3, XYZ, really, I've jumped through every hoop, bounced on every ball while juggling flaming torches to make my business successful and competitive at each level in the public, private, and public-private arenas. But I'm not the exception, rather, I'm more the rule. No matter what gender, color, culture, religion, or region, we've all worked really hard to be here. And this year has been one of the most devastating for many of our small businesses across all demographics. The MBE community, however, has been especially hit hard. And as a communications specialist, I know at the core of this is the lack of information being effectively disseminated, followed by a lack of trust in what is received by our businesses. However, it's also painfully clear that it's mostly a lack of our relationships and reputation in the banking and finance sectors, which is why we are all here. We all know there have been good players and bad players in this, and I myself experienced disappointment by my big bank, and it was a smaller institution that was agile and nimble enough to act quickly on my behalf. But I have no intention of dribbling on about the past state of affairs. I'd like to get to the current conditions and contribute to the conversation and policy about moving on and moving forward. I'm a fixer by nature, and that's what I do. So, currently, if we were lucky enough to get the PPP and the EIDL, we're wrestling still with the realization that it might have been more advantageous to close up shop and fire everyone, including ourselves, and go on unemployment, because it was nearly impossible to get our employees to come back. Currently, we have state agencies voiding MWBE and DBE participation on contracts that we won fair and square to keep the funds for themselves internally. Currently, we have traditional and non-traditional banks tightening their belts on additional lending without substantial collateral that many of the decimated businesses do not have anymore because they've been sold. Solutions, New York State should honor all awarded contracts along with the composition of the teams that win. Responsible finance starts with responsible spending, and the state needs to adopt this policy as much as we do. A state of emergency does not throw the MWDBE or Section 3 requirements out the window. It makes zero sense that the state would pay people to sit home on the couch while at the same time take contracts away from small businesses that would have gotten those same individuals off the couch and off unemployment. This has been a long-standing issue of dropping MWBs from contracts by primes once a contract has been won, but never have I seen an agency do it themselves. It's completely egregious and a disgrace at this time. In regard to financing and loans with our banking partners, firstly, we need banks to secure bankers or consultants who really specialize in truly assessing businesses and advising them accordingly, not only with respect to its financials, but the business model itself and whether honestly is capable of surviving without a pivot in this environment. And if they must, I've been identifying what that pivot should be, what other channels of business they can explore. Banks need to take a hard look internally to make the necessary recommendations to clients. For instance, by being capable of advising us to forego profit to avoid complete losses. Bankers who understand that we're looking at and what they're looking at and warn clients or have safety measures in place for times like this that alert clients that we are drawing too much out of our businesses and advise how to stretch it out to get us out on the other side with some adjustments in spending. We need lengthened payment terms once all these factors are considered. We need our government to, quite frankly, simply get more money out on the street, because banks can only do so much with what they have, and without, restrictions being loosened, they can't do any more. But we as businesses need to show banks that we can tighten our belts as well and live on only what we need right now or less.
Well put, Ms. Cargill, as usual. Ms. Kim.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on this important topic. Nice to see you again, Senator Kaplan. My name is Ayoung Kim. I am the Associate Director of Small Business Programs at the Asian American Federation. We represent about 70 member and partner agencies serving Asian community through their work in health and human services, education, economic development, civic participation, and social justice. Our small business programs directly serve nearly 100 Asian small business owners in Flushing, but we also work closely with groups that support thousands of Asian small businesses, such as the Korean American Business Council of New York. In our rapid response to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have distributed over 300,000 PPE units and set up in-language resource center for online for government policies and assistance programs. But more importantly, in July to August this year, we conducted a survey to assess the impact of the pandemic on Asian small business owners. And I'm here to present you some of the following findings of that survey. I want to talk about two main issues in this testimony, which is first, access to service providers, and then second, language access. In terms of access to service providers in the time of the pandemic, whether the business owners had a pre-existing and a good relationship with the banks was a major factor for small businesses owners to secure their capital. But the problem is the Asian community is often left out of this kind of system or a privilege to be able to have that kind of relationship with major banks. And the problem is, in terms of PPP especially, even the commercial banks that traditionally serve our community to cater to the specific needs of our minority communities for language and culture have also not been able to perform to sufficiently cater to the needs. The community banks that I talked to actually told us that the 5% commission for PPP posed a challenge on their operational costs, which means that smaller loans under $10,000 were unattractive for them to actually process, or sometimes they were citing that they were going to lose money by the time they write off they're done with the underwriting process. On the contrary, the mom and pop small business owners with few or no full-time employees usually only will be approved to about $2,000 to $5,000 for PPP loans, which means that they are not going to get approved, but also there's little motivation from the bank's side to actually do follow-up in the process so that they can actually move on to a different bank, a nimbler, smaller bank like those that Ms. Cargill just mentioned. We also realized that in the survey that I previously mentioned, that over 7% of our small business owners who responded to the survey said weeks after submitting their documents, they still had no idea whether their loan was approved or rejected. And we realized that the institutional barriers like this in the delivery of federal funds has made the notion of paycheck protection a privilege, not a paycheck protection program, but a privilege for our community rather than an equitable program for all small business owners. Secondly, the issue of language access. I'm sure you're already familiar that 40% of Asian Americans in New York State are reported to have limited English capacity. And the problem, I'm sure you're already familiar with the problem of city and federal information lacking language access in terms of capital Honestly, they basically give just cursory translation of what products are available, and a lot of times those translation materials are not even given at the time of the launch of such programs, which poses a threat to whether small business owners with limited English proficiency can actually access and secure these funding. Some state fund programs like the New York State Forward Fund have better information in terms of outreach. However, I must point out that they still leave out immigrant communities without in-language assistance in the application process. And the problem is that the absence of this kind of meaningful language access results in one, like you will hear from ANHD later, that communities of color especially are catered to by non-banking lenders rather than real traditional commercial banks. But also, more importantly, for the less fortunate, they get taken advantage by professional service providers who are taking the opportunity to take out as much money and charge as much money as possible for their services like accounting. Or if the less lucky are ones that are seeking for funding from family and friends or predatory lenders. We want to point out that in the survey that I mentioned earlier, 40% of our respondents told us that there is not enough information in their language, and 35% told us that they had trouble connecting with the service provider, which is another big factor of language access. With this, I leave you with 5 recommendations. Number 1, please mandate language access for major languages of New York State for all state-funded grants and loans. 2, implement a support system in the application process to overcome the challenge of language barrier and financial literacy or digital divide for our smallest business owners. 3, increase funds for CDFIs to leverage for securing additional funds. 4, expand eligibility and state loans for programs such as New York State Forward Fund, because honestly, we all know PPP was not enough, and people who did get PPP should still be able to access this fund, especially if there is money left. And lastly, I'd like to see that the state senate do something to introduce a rent-specific assistance and zero interest loans for micro business owners, because for them, without a storefront, paycheck protection means nothing. It is irrelevant to them and their staff. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Very insightful, Ms. Kim. We will hear from Ms. Weisberg.
Hi, good morning. My name is Jamie Weisberg. I'm a senior campaign analyst at the Association for Neighborhood and Housing Development. ANHD is a nonprofit coalition of about 80 community organizations, neighborhood-based organizations, with a mission to build community power, to win affordable housing and thriving, equitable neighborhoods for all New Yorkers. We're also a member of the United for Small Business New York City Coalition, and we convene the Equitable Reinvestment Coalition, which both have a focus on capital for small businesses. But we've been really analyzing the COVID crisis and its impact on communities of color broadly since the pandemic began. I specifically look at our access to banking work and have been doing this for years. And New York City's small businesses have long faced numerous barriers to accessing financing. Now, due to COVID and the economic crisis, businesses need direct financial assistance to make up for lost revenue. While impactful to some, the release thus far has been inequitably distributed and does not sufficiently reach Black and Brown New Yorkers or the small businesses they own and operate. I'm going to focus today on our findings of the Paycheck Protection Program and what we know about the Community Reinvestment Act, and provide some recommendations for New York State. ANHD recently released a white paper with the following key findings from our analysis of the PPP loans distributed in New York City, demonstrating that many small businesses and communities were left out of the program. 86% of the loans were under $150,000, which is positive, but that totaled just $4.1 billion. The remaining loans were over $150,000 and totaled 2 to 5 times more. Also, $134 billion or so of the total PPP funding was never loaned out nationwide. So that's money that could have better been directed towards struggling small businesses. The geographic distribution of the loans largely matches pre-existing inequitable lending patterns, with lower concentrations of loans in low-income communities and communities of color where COVID has hit the hardest. Just 5% of all loans reported demographic data, so it's a small sample, but of those, 15% went to Hispanic-owned businesses and just 5% to Black-owned businesses. We also, as my colleague just said, we found that the percentages of PPP loans by non-banks are higher in communities of color. And then it's even more when you look at online lenders. These are communities that have fewer bank branches and way higher rates of unbanked people, meaning there's many there that do not have access to any sort of financing without a bank. And loans did not reach the industries that need them most. 30% of the loans went to businesses that were more suited to working remotely, whereas 50% went to industries that had to shut down or reduce operations. Just 7.2% went to food service establishments and 2.3% to manufacturing firms, which often pay good wages, don't require formal education, and employ large numbers of immigrants and people of color. And fewer than 100 loans went to street vendors who lost significant revenue if they could operate at all. Many street vendors were excluded from multiple relief programs because of their immigration status or the nature of their work. Second, I want to talk about the Community Reinvestment Act, which is a law that ANHE has been following and tracking since we started. This key civil rights era law requires banks to lend and provide banking equitably and support community development where they are chartered. And it's an important factor in directing capital to small businesses. But rather than strengthen the law, the Trump administration has been weakening it for the largest banks. And in fact, in May of this year, the OCC, which regulates the largest banks, significantly weakened the law, which will make it harder for an equitable recovery. For one thing, it prioritizes large deals over smaller, more impactful ones, making it harder for small businesses to access loans and for the nonprofits and CDFIs to access capital to serve them. And it raises the definition of a small business from under 1 million in revenue to 1.6 million in revenue, make it even harder for small businesses to access loans, such as the ones that my colleague was just talking about. The Federal Reserve has a more constructive CRA plan, and we think it's an opportunity to engage in a more productive dialogue. Without meaningful solutions and resources, small businesses at the city and state level, commercial tenants will be saddled with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt with no way to repay it, and many more could be forced to shutter permanently. So although these are federal programs, I have some recommendations to consider at the city and state level, or the state level here, forgive me. Suspend rents for commercial tenants impacted by the pandemic and create mechanisms for small and not-for-profit landlords impacted by this to seek relief. Support for the senator's bill to establish the framework for public banking. Enhance the New York Forward Fund to allow local CDFIs to make loans, particularly those that serve immigrant businesses, make all or some of it forgivable, because really many businesses can't take on any more debt. They won't be able to pay it back. Potentially with other grants as well, and make all the language and information accessible in multiple languages. We need to preserve and strengthen the state's CRA law, perhaps including expanding it to non-bank lenders and enforcing the new CRA requirements to serve MWBEs. Encourage banks to make small business loans, support CDFIs with grants and capital, grants to small businesses, push back against the OCC's harmful rules, such as their CRA rule and their true lender proposal that opens the door to payday lending in New York State, and support and provide input on more productive proposals. We need to do everything possible to halt branch closures in low-income communities and communities of color. We're seeing this right now in the South Bronx, where a bank just closed, leaving an area completely unbanked right now. And there's many areas that have long been unbanked entirely, as well as underbanked. We need to encourage banks to accept the ID NYC and other forms of identification, update the Lifeline account to minimize or eliminate overdrafts, and incentivize banks and credit unions to open in these communities. And really the focus of all the efforts must be on the smallest businesses, immigrant-owned businesses, and businesses owned by Black and Brown New Yorkers, with additional emphasis on efforts to support quality jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Well put. I'm sure that you have sent this to my office. If you have not, please make sure. I heard
I will for sure. Yeah.
12 pieces of legislation right there. And finally, my friend, Naeem, you're going to have to bring your, sometimes we only see the top of your head, sir. So
okay.
You may want to bring it a little lower so we can see a little bit more of you. There, you're looking fantastic, sir. Better than ever. Better than ever.
Thank you so much, Senator. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay, good morning and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Nayan Parikh. I'm president for New York Tri-State Association for Minority Contractors. It's a part of National Association for Minority Contractors, and we exist for the last 53 years. And this is the worst time for my members. I represent more than 200 mostly Hispanic and African American members, all small contractors, and they've been going through a lot of difficult time in New York City, New York State. And there's multiple reasons. New York City has spent $2 to $3 billion on the emergency work during the COVID, but there was not a single Black or Hispanic contractor get any opportunities. All work went to the big contractors, and because of emergency, city told us that, okay, it's an emergency, so we cannot include you. An example, the Shea Stadium, they converted into the COVID center. They called the company from Houston, SLS, the company who is doing the Mexico Wall for Donald Trump. They gave them contract for $250 million. I reach out to mayor's office and say, well, it's an emergency. What can we do? All right, fine. So that's the problem that our members are going through. Most of city work, state work is on pause. There's no grant in New York City or most of the agencies. So contractors who have small jobs, $500,000 to $1 million, or $200,000, $300,000, they all are on stop right now because city doesn't have the money. Some of the small work they opened up, you have to use all PPP money and all PPP equipment, the masks, sanitizers, all. And city doesn't want to pay that to the contractors. Well, this is your problem, it's not our problem. But it costs small contractors. If you put a sanitizer on the job, if you have to take the temperature, so there is a loss of time, but city doesn't want to compensate them. So those are the problems that we are facing right now. And I think it's very, very important. The banks, all banks are really been very difficult for the contractors because they don't want to release the money, including myself. I'm the largest minority company in New York State, and my bank right now frozen my line of credit, and they said, oh, you didn't do well like last year, so we're not going to give you line of credit. Of course, big companies closed down, so I won't be able to do well like last year. So my strong suggestion is release some more funds to the small companies. How we can do that, I don't know. And see if we can open up some of the schools and New York City agency work that will help. Otherwise, let's come up with small grants for this. Because if we don't do this, I think at least 60 to 70% companies will be closed down by next 3 to 6 months. I have a very, very strong feeling. So I urge everyone to do needful. We are here to help. I'm here 24/7 to serve. I'm with you. I appreciate your time and looking forward to hear more. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to raise a couple of questions. Hey, I'll take his minute and 43 seconds. I'll
Sure.
take a couple of questions. Even I can't do it, Naam. This first question is to Naam and to Ms. Cargill. You said, Ms. Cargill especially, you said the state voided MWBE contract, and so did you, Naam. Why is that? My second question will go to Ms. Weisberg and to Ms. Kim. What percentage of MWBEs won't come back? And to avoid that, what do they need to survive? But first, Ms. Cargill and my brother Naam.
Okay.
Ms. Cargill can speak on it first.
Thank you. There we go. Sorry about that. The logistics of this again. Well, the funny thing is, just like Naam had stated, there was no real excuse for it. This particular agency, they didn't even give me the courtesy of letting us know that we would be removed. We found out from our primes, and normally it's our prime contractors that we have those issues with. But in this case, we were told that they would simply be doing it in-house. And so that entire scope of work would be eliminated and you were not needed. And when asked, when the prime actually asked, they said, these are emergency times. And they're using the pandemic as a way to sidestep the MWBE, DBE Section 3 requirements. And that's unacceptable because if, let's say, just to use a simple number of $100,000, if that's taken away from a MWBE or DBE, especially a federally funded contract, the money must then go to another DBE or WBE, whatever the case might be. So where are those funds going to be redistributed? And it has to be with a member of the team. So, those are the kinds of answers we need to ask when they do things like this, because there needs to be accountability and transparency, because it degrades the integrity of these programs. And if we are New York State and we're the most diverse state in the country and we lead by example, we need to ensure that our state agencies are doing the right thing.
Thank you. I now look at my friend Naam. Why is this, sir? Why is this?
Well, I don't have the answer why, but I was very surprised. And literally, between State Stadium Jacob Javits Center, they brought that Navy ship to pier New York City, and CUNY and some of the other work that they've done spent almost $2.5 to $3 billion. And I was keeping tab on that. Even DDC, they call AECOM, they call Jacobs. Here is 125 million, go do your work. They call Gilban. And I reach out to them. I said, look, how about MWB? Oh, there is no goal because it's an emergency. Then I call, when I see SLS, the company from Houston, okay, who is doing a Mexico wall. And when I saw them getting a $300 million or $250 million contract to say stadium, I said, how the hell this company is getting the work from in New York City and we're not even getting called? But in those days, no one wants to hear us. And I did everything. Trust me, you know me, I did everything to make sure that our small, even cleaning the cable, cleaning the MTA cards, okay? There was a big task, and I was trying to see if I can get some work to some of my members who can go and clean the MTA cards, but even we couldn't get a hold of that work. So it's just how that happened, what happened, who is behind that, I can't tell, but at least I know that it's very disturbing, and our elected officials do need to do more, because I think they're passing underneath your radar, and you have no idea what they're doing. And I think the more work will come. Even they bought billions of dollar PPP equipments from big corporation, and they could have used some of the minorities in that case also, but they didn't do a good job. It's very disturbing, and hopefully with your leadership and Rodney Bishop's leadership, we can definitely I call even Rodney Bishop and I said, look, this is a daylight highway robbery, and but those days were bad, and it was emergency, and no one wants to say anything because people thought such an emergency. So this is what happened, and it's really damaged a lot of businesses to the community.
Thank you, Ms.
And just to add, it's not just the construction industry. So,
forgive me, Ms. Cargill, my time is not my friend. Ms. Weisberg and Ms. Kim.
I don't have a number on exactly how many will go out of business, but I think anywhere from 20% and up of MWBEs, I think it's safe to assume, but I don't have that figure. So, but it's drastic, and we're really concerned about the number of businesses that will not survive, not to mention the ones that have already shut down. And I think, so as my colleagues here just said, hire MWBEs and make sure that that's a priority. We need grants, like businesses need capital. They are not working for they're already facing decades of really a history of systemic racism and discrimination. And so this pandemic just lays that bare. So typically people of color will have fewer resources to survive on during any hardship, and this is exacerbating it. So if there is a new round of PPP that needs to be prioritizing for MWBs, for people of color, whether they're certified or not, honestly, but businesses owned by people of color across the spectrum, they need to be prioritized. The language access that my colleague had mentioned earlier. But really, it's about access to capital, access to grants, access to banks. The banks are not serving the communities equitably, and that's been the case for a long time now. So PPP also laid that bare, but we have so many unbanked and underbanked areas that also need to be addressed. So I think the response needs to be systemic, and it needs to be targeted. So if we don't have you can't have a colorblind solution to a problem that affects people of color.
Well put. Ms. Kim.
Thank you. To be honest, I think the question of how many percent of MWBE will not come back at the end of the pandemic differs based on industry. Obviously, certain industries are more impacted by this issue and others are not. What I can tell you, however, is that over 31% of our survey respondents had told us that the business was temporarily closed at the time of the survey. And almost all business owners reported a decrease in revenue, 55% of them saying they suffer from over 75% of loss in revenue. But I think another important question we need to ask here is that For the case of Asian MWB small business owners, like how much are they actually informed about like the opportunities? Because a lot of the times the Asian MWBs, my understanding is that they are often sole proprietor, professional service providers such as accounting, et cetera, and they are not able to perform at the economy of scale or the capacity of the contract that is being asked for. This is not just an issue of COVID pandemic response, but an issue of MWB system in general. And because of the fact that it's difficult for them to actually win these contracts when they engage with state and city governments for MWB, they often feel that it's not really worth their time and resources to go through the hoops of, getting certified for MWBE. And I must say that this experience of COVID pandemic and the state government's response to it actually validates that sentiment on the ground. And my question actually to you is how many more of them do you think will actually stay as certified MWBE after this pandemic?
I suspect that question was to me, Ms. Kim.
Sorry, the public in general, or whoever is making sure this contract works.
I will defer to the public in general, and I will punt to Madam Kaplan, Senator Kaplan, who will raise any questions, comments, or concerns that she has. I'll be back in a moment.
Thank you very much, Senator Sanders. In the interest of time, I have a couple of questions. If you can just concise them for me, that would be great. The first question is for Mr. Nayan Parikh from Ashnu International.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
As a multinational and multi-state company, how does securing financing compare to what you've experienced in other states? And what are the challenges you face in New York? And is there anything you can teach us that we can learn from other states or countries as to how you operate in and what we could do?
So my main office, my headquarters is in New York, and New York is the most diverse state and very friendly with the minorities. And we have the best program for minority, but sometimes a lot of time the enforcement is not enough, and the large companies or the white-owned companies, they took the advantage of the emergencies, and we cannot take the stands. As far as finance is concerned, my banking is here in New York, and this is the most difficult time that banking is. I had a $15 million line of credit, and the bank don't want to give me line of credit anymore. They said, oh, your business is not the same like last year. But, obviously it's not going to be the same. And this is the time that banks should be stand by to us. So I'll still say that New York is the best state compared to the other state. Most diverse.
I have to agree with you on that.
Yeah, most diverse. And the work that you all do in Albany and City Hall is commendable, because no one do what you do for minority. But there's always like a thieves and cops, there's always behind each other. So, you keep doing your job, and I'm very happy, and I can't say that New York State and New York City is not doing enough. So I love New York, and I'm 200% behind the New York legislation and the elected officials.
Thank you. My next question is for Margot. As an MWB, do you feel you were facing any unique challenges during this time in securing capital?
Well, yes, because one of the issues is, once again, the relationship, the banking relationships. And it comes from just generally not having, those kinds of revenues. When you don't have that kind of revenue, you don't have that kind of capital, the larger institutions are not, once again, attracted to you as a client. So by then, you're now having to have alternative banking methods that then, let's say, do not have the vehicles and the resources and things like that are able to advise you properly and more in depth on, the programs and services that are available. And that's why one of the things that I had stated is really to ensure that these even the CDFIs and the smaller institutions, that they're they have the capacity to really serve the smaller MWBEs and advise them accordingly, not just on the financials, but also your business structure, so that it can give you more perspective on whether or not you should really make that pivot, and you have to in this current climate.
And prior to COVID, were you experiencing any issues accessing capital? And where do you usually turn to for financing?
For financing in the minority community, it usually comes from family, and it doesn't come from the traditional lending models, especially the immigrant population. I'm Jamaican and Cuban. We have different mechanisms of things like partner and all of these non-traditional pooling of resources from family and friends that believe in you, believe in your company, and things of that nature. But walking into a bank and saying, okay, I want $100,000 line of credit or loan to get my business off the ground is just really not something that I was ever able to access. It wasn't until I had grown my business to a level where banks finally thought I was worthy of getting that funding, was I able to even think about being able to secure something like that.
Thank you very much for your testimony, all of you. And yes, you do highlight some of the issues that we really need to focus on and work on. And with that, my time is up. I give it back to the Senator Sanders.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you have heard from this distinguished panel, there are other questions that we need to explore, and I just urge the Senate to look at the status of the MWBEs during the pandemic, the status of MWBE businesses, of course, during the pandemic. To all of the panelists, I appreciate your taking this incredible amount of time and sharing with us. And I look forward to working with all of you in the days to come. Thank you very much. And we will call our next panel.
Thank you.
Our fourth panel, we will have Jennifer Sun, Co-Executive Director for Asian Americans for Equality and Renaissance Economic Development Corporation, as well as Steve Cohen, the President of Pursuit Community Finance.
Still good morning. Good morning, all. It's good to see you. Thank you for taking this amazing amount of time with us. But as you know well, this is such an important issue. And Ms. Sun, will begin with you so that you can give us your perspective.
Good morning, Chair Sanders and Chair Kaplan. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share experiences today. My name is Jennifer Sun, Co-Executive Director of Asian Americans for Equality, a 46-year-old comprehensive community development organization based in New York City. Thank you for the opportunity to address your committees today about access to capital during the pandemic for immigrant and minority small businesses. AFI's mission is to advance racial, social, and economic justice for Asian Americans and other systematically disadvantaged communities. We develop and manage affordable housing across New York City, provide an array of community services for 20,000 New Yorkers each year, and empower entrepreneurs through Renaissance Economic Development Corporation, our small business affiliate. Renaissance is a U.S. Treasury-backed CDFI, which has provided more than $55 million in low-interest small business financing since its founding in 1997, and offers a range of multilingual training and counseling programs in low to moderate income and immigrant communities across the 5 boroughs. Renaissance is the only CDFI serving the multifaceted Asian American and Pacific Islander community in New York. Throughout our history, we have stepped up in times of crisis as a first responder to help bring our communities back from the brink. After 9/11, AFI and Renaissance helped administer a $15 million small business loan fund from the Empire State Development Corporation. We played a similar role after Hurricane Sandy, dispersing $5 million to impacted small businesses. Long before COVID-19 triggered statewide shutdown orders, Asian American enclaves in Manhattan, Queens, and Brooklyn were suffering the economic effects of the pandemic. Racist and xenophobic rhetoric depressed foot traffic in Chinatown, Flushing, Sunset Park, and other areas, endangering both the safety and livelihoods of thousands of mom and pop business owners. In response, AFI established an emergency small business loan fund in mid-March with donations raised from our annual Lunar New Year banquet, which we were forced to cancel. Renaissance was then able to add to the fund thanks to generous grant awards from several large banks. Due to social distancing protocols, we cannot see clients in person, so in a few days' time, we created an online application system accessible in English, Chinese, Korean, and Spanish. The first loan was closed less than 2 weeks after the fund was launched. In a 6-month period, Renaissance closed almost 150 loans totaling $2.8 million. We have also facilitated and closed 76 loans for $1.5 million through this SBA PPP program, with an average loan size of $19,000. While the state permitted Renaissance to reallocate some previously awarded funds to COVID relief, it was largely the private sector that made this loan fund possible. Renaissance and other CDFIs serving diverse communities were consulted by government agencies at the city, state, and federal levels as officials were crafting their business loan programs. So it was surprising that so few of these grassroots groups were selected to administer the various loan funds. As a result, many immigrant small businesses have been unable to access emergency aid. In New York City alone, Asian-owned businesses make up nearly 23% of all businesses. The AAPI community has been hit disproportionately hard due to the pandemic. As the Asian American Federation notes in a new report, applications for unemployment benefits increased by more than 6,000% in the Asian American community from February to June. The federal PPP loan program was mostly out of reach for truly small businesses, particularly immigrant, minority, and low-income businesses, which lacked pre-existing relationships with mainstream banks. The state's New York Forward Loan Fund should be another place to turn to, and for many firms, it is fulfilling an important need. But because only 5 statewide CDFIs are involved in administering the fund, many immigrant communities remain excluded. We encourage the state to collaborate with local CDFIs, organizations that know their communities best, to disperse loan capital. In addition, we recommend that these loans be made partially or completely forgivable. Finally, today, AFI urges government entities to make multilingual materials more readily available for all aid programs. Very often, program flyers are translated and downloadable, but it doesn't do much good if online applications are English only. Also, many of our communities lack a home computer, but increasingly do have a smartphone. For this reason, it's especially important that mobile versions of online applications are made more readily available. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify today and to share our experiences during COVID-19. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thanks again.
Thank you. Now to you, sir. We'll now hear from Mr. Cohen.
Thank you. Good morning, Senators. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Steve Cohen. I'm the president of Pursuit Community Finance, which is the community development financial institution affiliate of Pursuit, previously known as New York Business Development Corporation, Empire State CDC, and Excelsior Growth Fund, all affiliates rebranded as Pursuit in February of this year. We are one of the most active alternative lenders in the state. Together, we have a loan portfolio of $2.3 billion and 11,000 loans. We administer a variety of federal, state, and local programs, all the way from microloans of $10,000 to SBA real estate loans and working capital loans of $5.5 million. Our CDFI does loans primarily under $100,000, and we close a loan every business day. The CDFI community has been pretty active under COVID, and we are no exception. We issued hundreds of deferments. We provide technical assistance directly related to businesses understanding the impact during the COVID pandemic, revitalizing their business model, deploying consultants to them, and so forth. That's really important because of how many businesses have been impacted, particularly MWBEs and smaller businesses. The comptroller reported in July that 85% of MWBEs do not expect to be able to operate longer than 6 months. And despite these emergency programs, so many of the smaller businesses are still in need of capital. NFIB, who's testifying later, reports that 71% of small business owners that received a Paycheck Protection loan have already used their entire loan, and 46% of Paycheck Protection borrowers will need additional capital now and in the additional 6 months from now. As long as this pandemic goes on, the more resources by CDFIs and other nonprofit players will be critical. Some of the things that we've done, we did actually 7,000 PPP loans totaling $500 million. The average loan size was just over $20,000, showing that we have reached some of the smaller businesses where a lot of other lenders have not. Bloomberg reported that the fintech providers had the greatest fraud. That's avoided with CDFIs because we get to know our customer. There's not a single borrower that we don't know. We operated the Business Continuity Loan Fund in New York City, $23 million. We're probably the most active small business lender in the New York Forward program, $5.5 million either dispersed or approved and awaiting disbursement. I mentioned the advisory services that we do, which is so critical to everything. And we're one of the few CDFIs that actually deploys consultants that we pay to produce concrete deliverables on behalf of those clients. We're also launching a new LMI Small Business Restart Fund, $40 million in conjunction with the city. Now, what else can the state do to support small businesses? Probably the biggest recommendation is that the very successful Capital Access Program, which provides loan loss reserves to alternative lenders like CDFIs to make these risky loans, it lapsed just before COVID hit. So I know that Empire State Development is trying to revitalize that program and get funding to revitalize that program. That is probably the #1 program outside of the emergency programs that will help deploy risky capital to those businesses that need it the most. Other recommendations, the CDFI Assistance Program provides grants to CDFIs to do the technical assistance and advisory services, ensuring that that's adequately funded. Folks get under $100,000 generally for that program every year. Other things to do, promote the availability of these alternative capital programs. We just participated in a webinar that you, Senator Sanders, hosted, and we love doing those. So the more you can help get the word out for CDFIs, the better. The same is true with some of the membership organizations, which sometimes require referral fees or they ask for memberships. Encouraging them to get the word out as widely as possible is recommended. And SBA Lender Match is a critical tool to link up with alternative lenders, and promoting that is critical. We are great participants in all the state programs and enthusiastic and happy to answer any questions at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Cohen, I was just with Jonelle Doris, the head of the New York City Department of Small Business Services, and he also was mentioning the loan loss program as the most important thing that could be done. Explain this program or this fund a little bit more.
So there are two loan loss reserve programs. The city operates one called the Neighborhood Credit Fund. The state operates one called the Capital Access Program. The city's program still has money, and we continue to enroll loans in New York City into that program. The state's no longer has money in that program. It has expended that, but I know that Empire State Development is trying to revitalize that program. The way it works is we provide 5% into a pool. The state provides 5% into a pool. That grows the more loans that we do. And then when there are losses, we can draw down on that loan loss reserve program. There's, in our case, 95% private capital leverage for each dollar the state puts into it. So it's a good return on investment, and it helps us make risky loans, which at this time is sort of obviously critical.
How much money are we speaking about? How much it was in the past and how much should be in?
I believe that it was funded at $8 or $9 million. It might have been up to 11. I'm not sure, $8 or $9 million. So it's not, it's millions, but it's not a lot. That was through the state small business credit initiative. So it was federal money. So when the federal money was gone, it was funded exclusively from that. But I know they're looking at creative ways to revitalize that program.
Okay, well put. Ms. Sun, first things first, the Senate, of course, denounces the xenophobia and the racism that was directed against the Asian community in the past, especially in those days leading up to us locking down. It was a horrible time, and we saw some things. I was on my way out to some of my friends in the Chinese community, restaurant owners in Brooklyn, when we couldn't go anywhere. I was going to go and stand with them at that time. So we certainly denounced that then and anything going forward. What do you believe, Ms. Sun, is the most useful thing that the state can do to aid these small business communities?
Thank you, Senator Sanders, and I appreciate this strong state and public statement denouncing xenophobia and standing in solidarity with our communities. I would echo, I think, the importance of investing in the program to support more loan loss reserves from our experience as a CDFI as well. Within our current loan portfolio, we're looking at a higher risk of about 28% of our loans potentially defaulting, which is significantly higher than the less than 3% default rate that we typically have in our loan portfolio. The 28% percent of loans that are at risk represent businesses that have either permanently closed already or have temporarily closed, or expressed through a lot of our post-loan counseling that even though they are open, they're still struggling to remain open. So I think increasing the amount of loan loss reserves, I would echo, is a really important investment from the state. I think additionally, investing in more CDFI capacity to provide a lot of post-loan closing counseling and technical assistance is really critical. Our staff is spending more time doing individual follow-up with our loan borrowers to really understand what additional needs they have. And that obviously requires a lot of time and people power. And so I think continuing to invest in that capacity will be essential so that small business owners can continue to understand what existing programs and new programs might become available over the next few months.
Thank you. I'm really enjoying this panel too much, Senator Kaplan. I'm almost tempted not to pass it over to you, but I must. Senator Kaplan.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. So I know Renaissance Economic Development Corporation was front and center helping lead the revitalization of Lower Manhattan after 9/11. What lessons from that terrible day can we apply to today and our situation now?
Yeah, I think the most tangible lesson that we learned from that experience was just how quickly we need to get capital into the hands of small businesses, which is why when we started to hear in early February of small businesses in predominantly Asian commercial corridors seeing a steep decline in foot traffic, in customers shopping in their stores, even wholesale businesses seeing a significant drop in sales activities, we mobilized quickly to redirect funding under our control, but also to raise funding from private banks and philanthropy to quickly create a loan fund because we knew that it would take longer for government to be able to respond. So I think the focus of government in continuing to partner with banks and with philanthropy is going to continue to be very important because I think in partnership with the private sector and with philanthropy, you can continue to be nimble in designing the products and services that are most responsive, in a very timely way. Because I think waiting for, government processes, especially at the federal level, is unsustainable for most of our small businesses.
So was that the biggest impediment to the creation of your microloan funds?
Yeah, so it was taking the time of working individually with banks. And so thinking about government's power to convene banks to come together, so that we're not having to individually appeal to banks or even to philanthropy to raise funding, but to be able to, at a greater scale, bring that capital together, provide the loan loss reserves, thinking about the different and multiple pieces of the solution together are really essential to provide time-sensitive solutions to small businesses.
Thank you, Ms. Sun. My next question is for Pursuit Lending. I noticed on your website that you not only have an application for your Pursuit loans, but also many links and other resources that are available for small businesses, which I thought was wonderful. Thank you for that. If someone is pursuing a loan from you, and also perhaps one that is offered by a government agency, do you offer support to them for that other loan application? And does an individual receiving money from one entity can gain, let's say, a local government have any impact on them receiving a loan from your company?
Can you restate the last part of your question?
Yes. Does an individual receiving money from another entity, again, let's say a local government, have any impact on them receiving a loan from your company?
So the answer, So the answer to the first part is we work with anyone who could be eligible for capital to try and direct them to the most appropriate source, whether it's us or the emergency program. So we have definitely helped folks understand the emergency programs and encourage them to get EIDL, for example, if they can. And if they need more in-depth assistance with EIDL, we've directed them to the SBDCs and so forth. But we work individually. We have an advisor at the CDFI who works individually with the client. Most of that is to access our full range of capital, but not exclusively so. The answer to your second question, the only restrictions would be not imposed by us, but by any other programs that we participate in. So for example, New York Forward, if you get EIDL, you can't get New York Forward. They've changed the requirements for PPP such that PPP under 50,000, now you can get a New York Forward loan, which I think is good. But those restrictions would be by other government programs, not us, but in general, no.
Thank you. That makes it perfectly clear. I appreciate it. And thank you again for both of your testimonies.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we get ready to call the next panel, I want to thank these panelists for doing such a wonderful job in this pandemic, if that is such a term. But we all need to do better. And thank you again for taking this time from morning till afternoon. Thank you. We'll call the next panel.
For our fifth panel, we have Anders Thompson, President and Chief Executive Officer of Chemung Canal Trust Company, on behalf of the Independent Bankers Association of New York State. Henry Meyer, SVP General Counsel, New York Credit Union Association. Jim Montes, President of the Carver Federal Savings Bank. And Justin Bakes, Co-founder and CEO of Forward Financing.
Okay, I see some. I don't see Mr. Montes.
Senator Sanders, before we go on, I just want to make sure that everyone is aware Senator Philip Boyle has joined us for this hearing.
Thank you. Well done, Senator Kaplan. Thank you kindly. We will begin in the order that you were read, and that is Mr. Thompson first. And you may begin, sir. And if we give him 10 more seconds and we will get some sound. Now you can begin, sir.
Now, thank you and good afternoon. I really greatly appreciate being here, and I've really enjoyed the testimony from everybody today. It's been really thoughtful. My name is Anders Thompson. I'm president and CEO of Chemung Canal Trust Company, and I'm here to represent our bank, of course, but the Independent Bankers Association of New York State, as well as community banks across the state. Our bank is unique. We're an upstate New York bank. We were started in 1833, nearly 2 centuries ago. We serve 32 offices through 13 counties. We're headquartered in Elmira in the southern tier, and also have significant business in the capital region of New York and some business in the northern tier of Pennsylvania. For the record, we are the oldest locally owned and managed community bank in the state. So somewhat unique. Through our footprint, we serve 50,000 households, 5,500 businesses, largely small businesses, and we employ 360 people. We are supervised by the Department of Financial Services of the state and the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. We have assets of $2.1 billion. Small business is tremendously important to us. From our founding to today, it's vital. It's vital to our success, and I believe the very success of the communities we proudly serve. And it's been hard as we've watched the pandemic emerge and take hold, and hard to believe we're now 7 months into this pandemic. But this has significantly altered our footprint for sure. Some industries, candidly, have flourished through this, those especially tied closely to the supply chain. But many of the service industries, and I'd say the vast number of businesses, have suffered, and that's been evident. Part of our footprint is in the Finger Lakes of New York, which relies heavily on tourism, and tourism has really struggled, obviously, because convening has come to a near halt, as it should. Of note, and it was mentioned here earlier, unemployment in our region has greatly increased. In the MSAs that make up our footprint, the 3, it has nearly doubled and has some tremendous impact on those families. I am very proud of the work that we did for our community through the pandemic so far, and our work is not yet done. I'll point out that of the roughly $1 billion in commercial loans, nearly $300 million we have altered payments to accommodate challenges of cash flows and business interruption for our clients. And we did that early and very, very thoughtfully on a case-by-case basis. The PPP program, which was discussed quite a bit today, we provided nearly $200 million of PPP loans and provided support for 1,200 businesses that supported 19,000 employees. And now we're working through the forgiveness part. I will point out note, since this session today is focused on small business, that 59% of our PPP loans were for less than $50,000, and 81% of our PPP loans were less than $150,000. So truly supporting small business. While we go forward, I've been excited to hear the different ideas. I recognize that although we have not seen a material increase in delinquencies, that the challenges exist. I think the PPP loans and the stimulus have been critical to supporting our small businesses and keeping them vital. That being said, there are certain industries that are acutely impacted and might need more support. Those are restaurants, hotels, fitness centers, salons, arts and culture, childcare, extreme challenges on that regard. So as we go forward and we look to provide capital, we recognize that the level of capital that's being requested is diminished. We've had a third less applications for small business loans during this period, and our declination rates, surprisingly, have also gone down by more than 50% during this period. So we are working hard to support the small businesses. In closing, I just want to say that the community banking industry is strong. We have liquidity and capital to support the communities in these uncertain times, and we stand ready to meet the needs of our communities and our entire community, no matter their makeup or background. And on behalf of Chemung Canal and all my constituents, thank you very much, sir and madam, for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. Good to see you again, sir. Mr. Mazer, we will now hear from Mr. Mazer. One way or another, we're
Okay, can you all you can all hear me now? I'm good, ready to go.
You are great, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting the Credit Union Association to participate in today's hearing, Senator Sanders and Kaplan. It's great to see some of you folks again, and hopefully one day soon we'll be able to see each other walking around the Capitol again. First of all, I provided my written testimony, so this is going to be a summary. You can always read what I had already given you when you have more time. Okay. So this hearing has been particularly informative, and it's going to have some ideas that I'm going to bring back as well. And the points that the Credit Union Association would like to get across are, one is that we are an industry that believes that you not only judge the success of lending and the success of the banking industry in general, not just by how well it does in the good times, but by how much help it can provide in the bad times. And I'm extremely proud to say that many credit unions stepped forward, particularly with the PPP program. In New York State, we provided 9,000 loans worth approximately 500 million, keeping in mind that there was a wide range of credit unions from 5-person shops to, let's say, 100-person employees. Okay. Many of those loans, more importantly, have, as you were just hearing, small to medium-sized institutions, for whatever reason, have done a much better job of helping out what I call the true small businesses. The classic definition is 1 to 500, but you have much small businesses, and as institutions grow, perhaps they aren't as attractive to lending institutions. The average size loan that credit unions have given is $67,000, okay? And again, about 87% of those nationally, based on the statistics I've seen, are under 150,000. So you do have institutions out there, not just banks, not just, but credit unions as well, that are here to help and that have really made the effort to help out businesses most in need, okay? Unfortunately, the PPP program, it's easy to criticize it because when you have that much money and you get it out as quickly as they wanted to, understandably so, there are going to be mistakes. So the criticisms that I have of the program should be put in that context. And one of the things that we are seeing is that under the PPP program, borrowers are allowed to apply for converting their loans, if it meets certain criteria, into a grant. Well, according to congressional testimony, as late as October 1st, there had not been a single application for conversion into a grant approved. And so the process is going to be very slow for businesses that need to make sure that they don't have to repay the loans. These are businesses that are ultimately going to qualify for it. Another thing we're seeing is that what this has taught all of us is the need for counseling and the need for information. In getting ready for this testimony today, one of the things that credit unions told me most consistently, and I've heard this from my friends who are community banks as well, when you're dealing with a small institution, okay, they need the advice. I like to say they have better things to do with their time than reading the fine print of the CARES Act. So it's extremely important that they have access to the counseling services. And the stories that I love most are the ones about the credit union on Long Island that was able to, in 1 hour, figure out for a local business, construction business, what they had spent almost a week in man hours trying to figure out, which is how to apply for a PPP loan. So the second thing we've learned is the importance of counseling. Okay. And in going forward, we've heard a lot about the New York Forward program. That's a great program, a great model. I would like to see it expanded to include other institutions as well. And more importantly, though, the key to that program is the underwriting is done by underwriting professionals. The state has many strengths, but providing underwriting criteria or underwriting is not one of them. Finally, I've heard a lot about banks and they do great work, but remember that we need to make sure that credit unions can play on an even playing field. It's something that I've talked about with you quite a bit, Senator Sanders. Credit unions are here to help. And one of the things we're going to be looking for is an opportunity to expand the ability of credit unions to help out institutions that are impacted negatively by COVID-19. So once again, thank you very much for inviting credit unions. Thank you very much for your help with the industry. And I look forward to answering any questions you might have going forward.
Thank you, sir. We'll now hear from our last panelist, last but never least, of course, sir.
Appreciate that. So good afternoon, Senator Sanders, Senator Kaplan, other distinguished members and guests. My name is Justin Bakes, and on behalf of Forward Financing, I'm pleased to be here today to discuss access to capital to small businesses during the COVID pandemic, including its impact on minority-owned businesses. My hope in appearing before you today is that I may serve as a resource to both Senate committees regarding the current plight of New York small businesses and offer the support of Forward Financing in the spirit of working together to help save these Main Street businesses that are the backbone of our American economy. Forward Financing is a nationally recognized financial technology company that provides working capital to small and medium-sized businesses across the country. We are also a member of the Small Business Finance Association. Since 2012, Forward Financing has provided more than 23,000 businesses with funding to help them purchase inventory, hire employees, expand operations, open new locations. These small businesses include restaurants, nail salons, small construction firms, transportation companies, specialty contractors like electricians and plumbers. New York is home to one of Forward Financing's largest customer bases. We've funded over 1,400 small businesses that call New York home. By any measure, the COVID pandemic has hit our customers, especially New York, very hard. Since the pandemic began in March, 71% of our New York customers needed help to reduce or pause their payments once their revenues began to drop. We were able to work with our customers significantly to reduce or suspend their payments while they contended with government closures, capacity restrictions, and diminished customer traffic. Number of financing applications we've received from prospective New York customers during the first full week of October was down 73% from the number we received during the first week of March. In our view, this sharp drop suggests two likely outcomes. First, the pandemic has stifled the growth of New York small businesses to the point that they're no longer actively seeking capital, seemingly resigned to slowly winding down their operations with no clear end to the current economics in sight. Second, another option is the PPP, Paycheck Protection Program, EIDL, and other state-based stimulus measures have been effective in stabilizing these businesses for the near term. The underlying cause should become clear as we observe application and funding trends in the months as businesses exhaust their stimulus funds. For most of these small businesses in traditional times, obtaining a typical bank loan is an arduous month-long process for which their chances of approval are relatively low. Using data from a small business credit survey conducted in 2018, large banks approve approximately 60% of loans sought by white small business owners, while only approving 50% of loans sought by Latino small business owners and 29% sought by Black small business owners. When women and minority-owned businesses are denied or underserved by traditional lenders, they rely on financial technology companies like Forward Financing. The initial business closure orders in New York and across the country signaled the beginning of the end for many small businesses, especially those in the restaurant, retail, and personal service industries, all which are dependent on in-person contact with customers and have a relatively higher concentration of minority-owned businesses. An August brief from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York showed that while only 17% of white-owned businesses closed from February to April 2020 as the pandemic struck, the closure rate was 41% for Black-owned businesses, 32 for Latino-owned businesses, and 26 for Asian-owned businesses. Even with the economy reopened, these small businesses are in dire need of our help. For the large majority of New York small businesses, the qualifying standards for traditional financing are too stringent to offer the help they need during this critical time. For our part, Forward Financing will continue to support these small businesses throughout the pandemic for however long it lasts. These Main Street businesses can rely on us to work with them to provide much needed capital to pause their payments if the revenues slow in the event of future lockdowns. Forward Financing only succeeds, and the alternative financing industry as a whole only succeeds when our small business customers succeed. Right now, they are fighting for their lives and they need all our collective help. Thank you for inviting me today, and I look forward to answering any questions you have on this topic.
Thank you, Mr. Bakes, and thank to all of the panelists. Mr. Bakes, if you'd be kind enough to send me all of the studies that you quoted, I'd appreciate it, any and all of them that you quoted. This question is to all of the panelists. Why don't the larger banks do more with the small business community and especially the MWBE segment of that? We'll start with you, Mr. Thompson.
Well, I appreciate the question. It's hard for me to answer given that I don't work there. I think there's a sincere interest in the banking community to serve the broad community. I can tell you specifically from a smaller institution that our relationship to the community is extremely close and tight. And the success of all our community residents really inures to the success of us. And so we're hand in glove with that. We thrive by knowing people personally, by understanding their needs, by making customized solutions, and trying to work specifically to the unique needs of an individual community and an individual business. That's hard to replicate if you're doing that across the entire country. But I know they try in all sincerity. But I can speak to the community banks, and then we work very, very hard to understand the community needs. And I think that's why we were specifically able to react very quickly to the pandemic. And I think we also saw when there was a lot of uncertainty, we recognized it was our mandate to support the community, whether it made sense from a capital or return perspective. We thought in our shop that you guys would figure it out how to make it work. And it was our job to try and get capital out on the street. And that's the way it happened for us. And I think that's the way it happened for community banks throughout the state.
Well put. Mr. Mazur and then Mr. Bakes.
Well, again, the difference is, and again, I'm not here to criticize the big banks because I don't work for them. I work for credit unions. But anecdotally speaking, I use the example of what the member told me about. It was a relatively small business that provided construction services throughout New York City. He was a sophisticated businessman with more than 20 years of experience. But when he's going up against the larger banks, okay, they're not going to know him the way his local Long Island-based credit union is going to know him. The way, so in that personal relationship, the ability of that member to actually call up the person making the lending decision and saying, hey, you've helped me out for years. Can you help me out now? There's an intangible to knowing your member that I think small institutions, relatively small institutions, which credit unions still are, even the larger ones, can provide that might be more difficult for larger institutions. But I do think that has a lot to do with it, the ability of actually getting to know people and having that personal connection so that a business in need knows who to call up.
Well put. Mr. Bakes.
Yeah, Senator Sanders, I think this is a terrific question. I think to simply put it, traditional banks are not in the business of losing money. The way they're capitalized, the way that they fund, they're not in the business of taking risk, any sort of significant risk, which right now small businesses are a bit more risky. They require assets, which many small business owners don't have. whether they're going to have to mortgage their own house to open their pizza restaurant, or they rent the pizza restaurant, they don't know the building to get a mortgage against. So I think in simple terms, traditional banks, large banks, are not in the business of losing capital. And so for them, any sort of risk is a no. And hence why approval rates, et cetera, and why there so many businesses are underserved by traditional banks.
Mhm. I want to congratulate the small banks, the credit unions, and some fintechs for stepping up in this period. And as I hand this over to my chair, my co-chair, Senator Kaplan. Senator Kaplan.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. I want to first of all thank the 3 members for their testimony. I think you actually answered my question, the difference between what you guys do and also the traditional banks, and look forward to working with you. I don't have any other questions for this panel. Thank you. Thank you again for your testimony.
Well done. Even as Khadija comes and reads the next panel, I want to thank you all. You've done such a great job that no one even wants to come and hit you with a question. That means you've done a great job. Thank you, and thank you for sharing this afternoon with us.
Thank you.
Goodbye for now.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Khadija.
Our 6th panel, we will have Nancy Martinez, the chair of REMA for Us, Inc., as well as Greg Bierla from the New York State Director for NFIB.
We're having a technical difficulty with Nancy, so we can go to Greg and while we work out this issue with Nancy.
All right, let's work that one out. Is Greg available? Well, we're starting to get you, Greg.
I am available.
There you go, standing. I like it. Sir, it's good to see you. You may begin.
Thank you, Senator. I am Greg Barilla, New York State Director for NFIB. The long version of that is the National Federation of Independent Business. We represent thousands of small businesses across every community and neighborhood in New York, and hundreds of thousands across the nation. For reference, the average size of an NFIB member in New York is about 10 employees. On behalf of our NFIB New York office and team, the small business on the front line of COVID's economic disruption, I want to especially thank Senators Kaplan and Sanders. This is not the first time that you've invited me to speak on behalf of our members. It's noted and appreciated. Compared to the financial and subject matter experts before me, I don't present myself to be an authority on lending or financing. I represent small businesses and all the issues that they confront. But 7 months into the pandemic, I hope to share the experience and perspective of our members and small businesses in accessing emergency funding during COVID and some of the challenges that remain. New York's economy began its phased regional reopening for non-essential businesses in May, with most businesses and industries currently permitted some degree of operation, although some are essentially still locked down. 5 months into this strategy, New York State carries the 3rd highest unemployment rate in the nation at 12.5%. For obvious reasons, this presents immediate and long-term burdens for our state's economy. This figure would undoubtedly be higher if not for the federal Paycheck Protection Program passed as part of the CARES Act in March. The Forgivable Loan Program funneled $520 billion to millions of small businesses across the United States, including more than 300,000 in New York. This program, conceptualized and passed in a matter of days, injected desperately needed capital to directly assist businesses with payroll and specified additional overhead cost. A funding effort of this scope, enacted with such alacrity, was bound to be imperfect. Several design and administrative flaws were soon apparent which Congress addressed in subsequent legislation that did improve the program. The initial and most frequent complaints centered on access to the program through private lending institutions. The experience of our membership varies and is anecdotal, but several broad conclusions can be drawn. Businesses with an existing banking relationship, particularly a lending relationship, found more efficient access to PPP. Small businesses who were able to deal with community banks, credit unions, and even some of the larger but still regional banks had a higher satisfaction rate than the largest corporate lending institutions in the nation. Those largest national retail banking institutions were the least responsive to small businesses' clients during this crisis. Lastly, the initial rigid structure of PPP loan use where it was 75% of funding had to be spent on payroll expenses, while 25% can be spent on mortgage, interest, rent, utilities, and some other items, unintentionally punished certain types of businesses, particularly in places like New York City, where real estate cost or equipment costs outweigh payroll costs. NFIB, among other organizations, advocated tirelessly for these flaws to be addressed, which resulted in future iterations of the programs improving. Some data on PPP. 78% of NFIB members applied for PPP. 96 were approved. 99% have that funding or received it to this date. 81% accessed that funding through their normal, typical, traditional banking institution. Only 4% of NFIB members expressed overall dissatisfaction with the PPP program. That's an incredibly high satisfaction rate. Looking forward, 84% of small businesses have exhausted their PPP loan funds. 86% of businesses have experienced a decrease in sales. 47% anticipate needing additional support from state and federal government over the next 12 months. 40% believe their businesses will cease operation in the next 12 months if conditions don't improve. Now I want to provide some statistical context from NFIB's Problems and Priorities survey regarding access to capital. It happens every 4 years. I will share the survey. There is New York State specific data that just came out in March, immediately before the pandemic. Of 75 issues identified as problems for small businesses, obtaining short-term business loans, less than 12 months, ranked 66th out of 75, with only 7.9% of small businesses identifying it as critical. Obtaining long-term business loans were much the same, 68th out of 75, with 5.9% identifying it as critical. For comparison, property taxes, which was the number 2 overall, 37% identified it as critical. Business income taxes, 32% of small businesses identified it as critical. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's go back to a point that you raised when you mentioned that 40% of the businesses may not come back. Could you expand on that a little bit more?
That is the most recent NFIB COVID-19 survey of our members. It was conducted at the end of September. 40% do not believe they will survive the next 12 months if economic conditions don't improve.
What can the banking, in your view, what can the banking community and what can New York State do about evening these odds, making them far better?
So let's start with New York State. Obviously, there needs to be some targeted relief. I know New York State's funding is limited. There are grant programs that can be effective in relatively small dollar figures to help with PPE acquisition, and some other types of expenses that maybe the PPP program didn't cover. Certain types of utilities weren't covered, although many were. Maybe assistance with rent or additional assistance with real estate costs. As I mentioned, in places like New York City, where your property expenses are so much more significant than other parts of the state and the country, PPP's limited nature in what the money could be spent on naturally limited the ability for small businesses to cover rent, or if they own their property, their mortgages. Also, there are structural problems, and I want to bring up one because I think it's incredibly important. I mentioned that 12.5% of the unemployment rate in New York State is 12.5%, which is the third highest in the country. Obviously, many small businesses had to lay off their employees. They had to lay them off because the state government essentially mandated that they cease operations. Particularly small businesses had a much harder time getting deemed essential or staying open at all. So we saw record profits in sales and receipts from Walmart, from Home Depot, from Amazon, from Wayfair, because they were able to operate because they're online platform, but also they were deemed essential while their small business competitors were not. So we are going to have a determination made by New York State Department of Labor at some point in the not so distant future about unemployment insurance premiums. And anecdotal information that we have received from experts indicates that we could see a $500 increase per employee for small businesses in their unemployment insurance next year. that is going to be a tax that comes out of nowhere, just as small businesses are hopefully getting their feet back underneath them. So while not directly related to the banking or financing or lending, it's a structural problem in New York that I would encourage any decision maker to do their best to prevent an unanticipated unemployment insurance premium spikes coming next year.
While it was, we are glad that the larger corporations that you named, Walmart, it was one of them, were open. It certainly put the small businesses at a disadvantage. And we really need to examine and have a policy for this type of stuff in the future, because just because a large corporation sold food, they were able to sell everything else. So we really need to think this one through more and having an even playing field. If food is deemed, then just sell food. Otherwise, you are absolutely putting the smaller businesses at a grave disadvantage. Thank you for pointing that out. I believe that we have Miss Nancy Martinez, who will be on the next panel, I was told, and I look forward to that. Madam Chair, I turn this over to you now.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. And thank you, Greg, for your testimony. I really look forward to see the survey. If you could possibly share that survey with us and our offices so we can take a good look at it. With regard to the question that you brought up, the unanticipated insurance increases, I believe, if I recall, there is a bill on that, but I will definitely look to see what we have and if there's anything we can work on together. I think that's a very valid point. My question to you is, are you aware that due to the federal IRS determination, it is possible that the PPP loans that are converted to grants could end up being taxable? What impact will this have on your members? And I sponsored legislation along with Senator Sanders to address this concern, but I would love to hear from you.
I mean, it's again going to be a surprise tax that's unanticipated, potentially at the worst possible time. We're talking about, several months into the new year when, knock on wood, hopefully the worst of the healthcare, the public health impact of COVID is behind us, and we are really able to focus on rebuilding our economy. If these PPP loans turn into additional tax liabilities, which was never the intent, congressional intent was that this was not going to be the case. There was an IRS interpretation that somehow made some of this relief taxable. It's just going to be another burden, much in the same way that I'm discussing unemployment insurance at the worst possible time. And I really appreciate you taking the lead on that, both Senator Kaplan and Senator Sanders at the state level. And I encourage you to reach out to our congressional delegation, obviously Senator Schumer, Senator Gillibrand, but your colleagues that represent us federally on Long Island and in New York City to make sure that this is a priority. There will be more legislation, relief legislation for small businesses and so many other entities impacted by COVID-19, and this needs to be top of mind.
Thank you. Prior to COVID-19, did your members experience the same issues with access to capital as during the pandemic?
I would say it's interesting. I don't mean to underappreciate the problem that is access to capital, particularly with MWBE companies or startups or young small businesses. Our members don't express as big of a problem because if you're an NFIB member, you're already in business. You've been in business. We don't represent necessarily entrepreneurs who want to be small businesses. We represent established businesses who by nature will have a little easier access to capital. But during the pandemic, we found the PPP program, while frustrating and certainly flawed, did provide a decent access to capital for most types of small businesses.
Right. And can you talk a little bit, you touched on it, but if you could talk a little bit more about the successes and challenges of your members having had with larger national banks, local banks, credit unions, CDFIs, and fintech firms?
So this is completely anecdotal. The two things that we really recognize, and my colleague Ashley Ransel in our state office and I mean, we talk to hundreds of our members trying to work their way through PPP programs. So while anecdotal, I think it still has some substance. One, if you had a lending relationship with any bank, it was beneficial. But it really went up the chain of command, the chain of size or scope of the bank was how you were treated as a small business. Community lending institutions, credit unions, even regional banks, they had some issues, but was largely a beneficial and successful experience. And then when you got into the major corporate lenders, the biggest banks in the country, and you know who they are, particularly where they operate a lot in New York City, and we don't have community lending institutions to the same degree in New York City. We have large financial institutions. It's the financial center of the globe. There was some real problem that we realized in the way they were treating small business clients. And then the second iteration of the PPP program, where they refunded it and tweaked it around the edges, they prioritized and directed certain funding to be distributed out of credit unions, community lending institutions, and also what we call non-traditional lending options, which are online-based, more modern and digital lending institutions. And all of the satisfaction experience with those types of institutions was significantly better.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your testimony, and thank you for NFIB that does a great job in representing their members. I'll pass it back to you, Senator Sanders, since I'm out of time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Borrello, he wanted to raise a point. Senator, the floor is yours. Nope, not yet, sir. Give it another round. Now it is. We have to get the brass band first for you.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity. And Greg, thank you for being on here. Let me start off by saying that I am a proud member of the NFIB, and I appreciate all that you do for your members, advocating, also making a lot of things more affordable for us with some of the programs you offer. I think that's something that's missed often. So thank you for what you're doing. You brought up unemployment insurance. I think this has been something I've been talking about since the very beginning of this pandemic. And, I will say, Senator Kaplan, there are bills out there to basically hold harmless what they call the experience rating for insurance, unemployment insurance. That is a critical need. Greg, when you talk about as much as $500 per employee in additional insurance rate, just to kind of put that in perspective, could you ballpark what that would average a percentage increase in unemployment insurance rates would be to your membership?
It would be, I actually don't have that exact figure, but it would be, more than doubling of it.
Yes.
We will not see those numbers out of New York State likely till after the first of the year. It's the way our calendar works. But for example, in Washington State and Massachusetts, they are already publicly reported similar figures. A little bit less than that, but they didn't have as much of an economic disruption to the same extent that New York did. So we are working with members of ours and experts in this field to really understand what hit is coming and make sure that it gets public. Because lawmakers, decision makers need to know about this. And I brought up the large mega retailers before because they didn't have to lay people off. So the base rating will be impacted, but their experience rating largely won't. The experience rating piece is going to fall on small businesses that were forced to lay off. And it is going to be potentially catastrophic next year if we don't anticipate and protect against this. And I know that some are looking to do it using federal funding that may or may not come through at some undetermined point in the future. And I'm not saying that's a bad use of federal relief, is to protect against unemployment insurance premium increases, but who knows? New York State has to look at their options as well.
Well, you're making my point. This is critically important because it's going to disproportionately impact small business, and that's really the important point here. We've asked throughout the hours on this hearing and others, what can state government do to help our small businesses? Typically, the answer is funding, and yes, we should provide funding. But right now, just making that change, holding harmless our small businesses, especially for that massive increase in unemployment insurance that was largely forced by the fact that this unemployment insurance, the fact that people were able to get more money being laid off than they were working, which created an artificial increase in unemployment. And it was also a strain on our workforce for small businesses. I can tell you that, our seasonal businesses here where I live, my wife watched the unemployment insurance claims pile up on her desk while she could not hire people to work for the summer season. So it was incredibly unfair. It was a mistake made in Washington that was weaponized in Albany by giving people virtually any reason to collect unemployment insurance. And now the double whammy is going to be paying that massive increase, as you said, doubling the cost of unemployment insurance in a state where unemployment insurance is already high to begin with. So I appreciate the fact that you pointed that out. If we want something that we can do that is relatively simple, we can hold harmless our businesses when it comes to the unemployment insurance ratings. And there are bills already in the Senate that address that issue. So I appreciate you bringing that up, and thank you very much for your advocacy.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, sir. Senator Borrello, you've spoken well. I'm sure that Senator Kaplan has, as usual, has come up with an adequate way of dealing with this, and I absolutely support it. There's no way that we can allow our small businesses to be crippled by something that no one anticipated and no one wanted this to happen. Not in DC, I would argue not in Albany, and under those conditions, we just have to say no and do more about it. Senator Kaplan, is there anything else that you want to say before I dismiss this person?
Just one comment. I did say that there was a bill. I was just not sure about the bill. It's, from what I understand, and please don't quote me on it, I have to go back and do real search. I believe it's Senator Carlucci's bill number 8231, and we will certainly take a look at it and see what we could do.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. I see that we have been joined by my boss, my constituent, the ubiquitous Ms. Nancy Martinez. This computer tried to stop you, but yes. I see that you have been stronger than technology, and that's I could have warned technology. I could have warned them, but they didn't listen to me. But we will listen to you.
Well, thank you, Senator Sanders. With today's time, we all have to be IT, My name is Nancy Martinez. I am chair of REMA for Us, which is Rockaway East Merchants Association for United Synergy. I would like to thank Senator James Sanders Jr. for the support and concerns he's showing to our small businesses, especially in our sector. I hear the desperate cries of our small businesses. They have expressed that they have even lost their American dream. And that really got to my heart when I hear their cries and that American dream is have lost and gone. This is something serious now. At this point with the second closure, it's devastating. It's devastating to certain sectors with this second closure. Definitely there is a need of grants. The loans have been wonderful for certain businesses. The banks have been there. I must thank them for certain businesses, but we've forgotten the true mom and pops of this nation, our barbers. Just this week, the merchants have gotten so desperate, they were out there with picket signs protesting. The barbers were so out of control, they were out there in the sidewalks cutting hair because they screamed out and they said, Nancy, I didn't get no unemployment because I don't qualify. I didn't get the loans because I don't qualify. And if I did get something, I got $1,000. I have children. I have to put on my plate. I have bills to pay. I got $1,000 from the loan, but yet I owe $15,000 in rent. And then let's not talk about the taxes that a lot of our merchants have gotten into these certain leases, which is unfair. but yet it's their responsibility. You know, REMA for us have been there, and I must say, Senator Sanders, you've been there. You know, we have applied for all the loans or all the different things that are out there for these merchants, but what can I tell the barber who rents a chair? Didn't get no unemployment, didn't get no loan, and yet there's a second closure. How can he support and put food on his family's table? You know, there are, grants is essential here. I know that because of the pandemic, we don't have a lot of funding, but we need to make sure that when we use these funding, we're using it for the people that desperately need it. The unemployment, we made mistake through this pandemic. It was all a boom rush to all of us, but the unemployment benefits a lot of individuals got that didn't really need it. And then we left a lot of lost ones out there, like the barbers, the lady who sells the flowers, who has a little flower shop. What happens to her flowers now in this second closure? You know, once they got a loan or whatever the loan they got, what happens now for the second closure? They say 2 weeks, but they said 2 weeks at the beginning. What happens to them now? You know, I'm usually a very positive individual trying to bring hope to our neighbors, but now I'm seeking help from the state. We need your help. You know, we just can't let them drown like they've been drowning, and we need to show that we're New Yorkers, we're strong, you know, our resilience, but we need to make sure we start from the ones who are essential. You need a haircut, for crying out loud. Senator Sanders, come on now. You know? So, you know, I'm pleading a case for our small merchants who are out there who did not get the loans, who did not get the unemployment. And I am pleading for you to find some sort of way to get grants. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez, and thank you for your vision and your sharp vision on my lack of a haircut also. I will say this, my friends, for those who don't know, Ms. Martinez is in one of the hotspots that have been reactivated, I guess you could say, or reclosed down. This is important for this conversation because it may happen in different parts of the state, and we really have to learn how to do it right. If there is a closure of any of these areas, then we need to come in with some extra monetary support for the businesses, and we need to figure out targeted support for these businesses. There are, I think, 11 hotspots throughout New York City right now, and that have been closed down. And Ms. Martinez has a great luck of being in one of those areas. Ms. Martinez, let me give you further bad news. I believe it's not going to be 2 weeks. I believe it's going to be a month before we see ourselves on the other side of this. So I would really prepare people, your members of the Rockaway East Merchants Association, REMA, I would prepare them for a month of that. What do you think the state could do or should do in a time like this to aid your members, Ms. Martinez?
Well, first thing first, they need to have some sort of monetary funding so they could buy food, so they could keep, the utilities going. A lot of them are not on unemployment. They have no other way of having any source of income. So if they close for 2 weeks, how are they going to feed their children for 2 weeks? If now it's a month, how are they going to feed their, family for a month? And the first time they said 2 weeks, and we ended up having 3 or 4 months. So, I'm pleading that if there's some sort of way to get immediate funding for these individuals who are on the red zone, immediate grant. So we have to think about health first, but we also need to think about that we have to feed, their families. They desperate. You seen the desperation in downtown Far Rockaway the other day, Senator? Because they're saying, how am I going to put food on my plate? How am I going to feed my family? They don't have no source of income other than their small little shops that they have. So how can we expedite some grants to these red zones area who so-called said they're going to be shut down for 2 weeks and we're going to exceed maybe 4 weeks, 6 weeks? How can we get immediate monetary funding to these small individuals who live off of their small shops and were not entitled to much at the beginning?
I will call the governor's office, Ms. Martinez, and try to help them think it through. No one has ever been here before. The last pandemic that the world has seen was back in 1918, the Spanish flu, which the second spike was 3 times the size of the first spike. Let's be clear. So yes, you're right. We have to be concerned about health, but we also have to be concerned about the functioning of business. One of the few things that I agree with the president of the U.S. about is that we absolutely have to make sure that we have to watch this, that we don't slide into a depression. That if we don't figure this thing out, the balance between health and the balance between business, we are going to end up in a depression. And it is very much a concern. I will speak to the governor's office and talk about what can we do to target something to the truly needy in these hot zones that have been re-locked down. And I hand this to my very worthy colleague, Senator Kaplan. Senator Kaplan.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. I think you said it best. Ms. Martinez, I want to thank you for your testimony. You gave us a lot to really consider and to see what we could come up in terms of solutions. And again, thank you for being here today and shedding light on the issue that we're all dealing. Obviously, we're all new to this pandemic. We've never dealt with anything like this. And it's going to take all of us working together to find solutions.
Absolutely, and thank you for letting me give my testimony, especially addressing the concerns that is affecting our neighborhoods. I know this is new, the pandemic is, is priority, but people tend to rebel. Like I said, they were out there with picket signs. When food is missing from a table, Senator, things occur, and we need to try to nip it now and bring the help where it's truly needed before it gets out of our hands.
Well put, Ms. Martinez. You have really done well by your organization and its members. I am going to meet with you. You guys need only to pick a day that works with my schedule. I will meet with you. We'll try to do it staying 6 feet or whatever the amount is. But we also need to be very real. And I need to bring the resources of where is their food? Let's talk about very real things. Where is their food to help your members and to make sure that we get through these, as Ms. Kaplan can really say, a entrepreneur is a very proud person.
Absolutely.
Incredibly proud person who the idea of going to a food line had just never been on their mind. It just it's just something that we could never even conceive. So rather than their families being hungry, I will bring those ideas, the resources of food to them so that we can have our proud entrepreneurs continue to hold on to their pride in a time like this. Something no fault of their own. They've asked nothing from government except the ability to compete. and through no fault of their own, we have shut down several areas of New York City, and this is hurting a lot of people. I will meet with your membership to see what are their needs. We'll also bring in the resources. There are agencies, the city has agencies, New York City has agencies to help people negotiate their rent. They have lawyers and others who can speak to the different landlords to see if we can't buy some more time, things of this nature. So I look forward to meeting with your organization in a place that I know very well, the Rockaways, Far Rockaways. I look forward to the place, Ms. Kaplan, where I was born and raised and still live. So having said those things, I want to thank you, Ms. Martinez, for stepping away from your job. People don't know how long you had to wait for this moment, and that was a moment away, but you did well, and you spoke for your members with an elegance and eloquence that a plea from the heart that really should touch everyone who has heard, and I'm sure that it has. And I want to thank you again for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
My co-chair, I will give you the penultimate word here. I learned that the other day, and I only use it to impress people. All it means is the next to last, but somehow it impresses people and they think I'm smart when I give you the penultimate word before we end this hearing.
I want to thank you for joining me and having this hearing. I think we heard really great testimony, and I think this information will be useful for us in our conference moving forward. I really do hope that we get a relief package from the federal government where we can address a lot of these concerns and issues and give the help that so necessarily is needed right now in our communities. Like you said, Senator Sanders, these are people in the communities that are hardworking people who want to work for their family, for themselves, to be able to provide and to move on. They don't really want a handout from the government. But right now, dealing with this pandemic, we are recognizing and trying to navigate uncharted territory, and we need to all pitch in, do our part, and the federal government has to do its part. And with that, I will say thank you, God bless you, and God bless this wonderful country we call United States of America, our home. And please, everyone, please stay safe.
Thank you, Madam Kaplan. I want to thank Khadija from my staff and the numerous people on your staff, Ms. Kaplan, that you have put into this effort to make this a success. And we really have enjoyed working with you and your staff. I want to thank all of the Senate staff that made sure that the media services and others who went above and beyond and really refuse to leave anyone behind. And we really appreciate those things. Of course, I want to thank the Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, who understands that these committees, the show must go on. The business of government is business, and therefore it must continue. And she, by showing that these committees are functioning, is showing her commitment of herself and the Senate to the New York State that we all know and love. We thank the governor's office for sharing the people that they shared with us, to all of the participants on here from the banking community, the credits unions community, MWBE. There was a host of people who spent their time and energy here, but I especially want to thank the audience, those who are watching this, who are looking for hope and perhaps seeing some of it here. Let me express a bipartisan statement, and that is, we hear you. We stand with the people of New York State in this trying time, and we want to make sure that we move forward in here. My friends, you've heard from everyday people, the entrepreneurial community, which is more used to giving to the less fortunate and helping the less fortunate. And many of them do it with such a beautiful heart, a beautiful spirit. Now is the time that they need. Now is the time that they have found themselves in a situation they couldn't even dream of, that they, instead of being able to help the less fortunate, that they are less fortunate. Now is the time that government needs to not giving people a handout, but they're asking for a hand up. And our job is to help with that. I, again, join all of those who are pleading to the federal government that, let's get past, let's do past partisanship. We should be bipartisan and do something immediately to help these people. Every day that you hesitate, more business people go down the drain. When business people go down the drain, the jobs go down the drain. When the jobs go down the drain, unemployment increases. People get evicted from their homes. People lose their mortgages. It keeps going. And to the banking community, I understand that we have a fiduciary responsibility. Surely we can do more at a time like this. Surely New York State needs creativity, innovation. And I believe that is there in the banking community, both large and small. Having said those things, I will merely say to thank you all for participating. Thank you for watching, and God bless New York State, and God bless the United States of America. This hearing is now concluded. Thank you very much.